Recording in progress.
We're good to go.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome to the Town of Richmond meeting of the Water and Sewer Commission, August 17th, 2026. Public comments?
Packed house tonight.
Packed house again. We have to bring in more chairs next time. Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda?
Nope.
Do we need to mention that letter because I was flagrantly late in getting it to you?
No, we have it on the agenda.
Okay.
Right. Let me see your follow-up and discussion. Potentially. Yeah, the letter is item D. So we can talk about it then. If you got a letter to share, we can review it.
Oh, I sent it to you Sunday night. So that's okay.
I did not see. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know where I.
No, I'm glad I brought it up.
Yeah, I did not.
I usually look like a goon, but anyway. So
That's weird. Yeah, I checked.
It's our first cyber attack.
Oh, jeez.
Second.
Let me. Yeah, no, I would have put it in. I would have emailed all of you. I just didn't see it this morning for some reason.
Oh well, it's not like you probably had
bombed or whatever.
Oh,
I
geez.
usually try to go through all my emails in the morning, see if there's anything specific for the meeting that
Greg,
night.
you ever experienced the
Sure. I wonder if it,
corn bomb?
You know what?
did it send or did it say?
Somebody would jump into a Zoom meeting and actively
Our meeting here and it happened to select.
yeah, Regional Planning Commission.
That's why you didn't.
And they locked the settings so Josh couldn't stop it. So I had to reach over and I put my hand over the projector and pulled the speakers.
Okay, you're sending it to me now.
All
If
graphic.
you send it to me now, I can download it.
So everybody after that,
Put it
like
on.
Regional Planning Commission, are like, I'm on it. My fingers on the button.
I can.
Oh, for suspending.
Yeah, I remember that one reporter was in a Zoom meeting without his pants on, but that's.
No,
That's benign compared to this.
yeah.
This was
Didn't go through. I almost texted you today because I was like, huh.
Yeah.
That's two, Josh.
No, that wasn't. It's not, he didn't. It got caught up in his draft folder. It wasn't my fault this time.
He didn't hit send.
Yeah, it wasn't on me. I don't think.
He thought he hit send.
Not on me.
That's right. Does it? I mean, just the fact that I was thinking about it, doesn't that put the blame on somebody else?
There you go.
In your
It
mind,
just-
it was all done.
It gets worse and worse. You got to follow all the way through the task.
Yeah.
You have the wristing phone. What was I doing?
All right. So I'm back online. Did you send it to me now?
I did send it
Okay, let me
directly.
see.
You know what? Sometimes your old email address comes up too.
Uh-oh.
Is it
Uh,
Hotmail address or something?
Yeah.
Gmail address?
.gov.state.
I'm not seeing it here.
bet you that's what happens. J. Aronson at richmond.gov.
RichmondVT.com.
Richmond VT. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
it's in there. Okay.
I sent it at 6.
.gov.
You sent it just now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got to go to Waitsfield and back. Give it a
It's
minute.
got-
Yeah. Just by stage.
High stage. Well, I don't see it when we get to the, if it doesn't pop up before we get to that, we can deal with it then.
I
but-
can read it through.
Yeah, we'll get to it or we'll find a way to share it. I'm sure. I'll keep looking for it.
It was a long addition, modification.
Not really an addition.
Okay. Anyway, moving right along. Approval of the minutes from August the 3rd, 2026.
Organist and David, move to approve.
Is Barnell second?
David made the motion. Bart approved. Any discussion? Further discussion, please state your name and how you're voting.
Bart, aye.
Greg?
Aye. David.
Merrick, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Very good. We've got 3 purchase orders. We'll start with the first one, 5337 to Chittenden Solid Waste District for $120,000 for disposing our sludge.
Organist is David. I move to approve purchase order 5337 to CSWD for sludge disposal in the amount of $120,000.
Is Barnell second?
Okay. Any further discussion?
That's a reduction of 20,000 over last year. And our actual for last year was 101.
Just because we're hauling less, or it's just
right.
drier?
Where the press is running better, making drier, and drier stuff costs less to truck.
Right. There you go.
Less water is putting it.
Yeah.
Great. Excellent. Okay. No further discussion. Calling for a vote to on the motion to approve purchase order 5337. Please go ahead.
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Eric, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Next, purchase order 5338 for $17,510 to various chemical suppliers.
Morgan, this is David. Move to approve purchase order 5338 to various chemical suppliers for sodium aluminate in the amount of $17,510.
This is Bart, I'll second.
Any further discussion? No further discussion. Calling on a vote. Please state your name and how you're voting.
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Eric, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Last purchase order 5339 to various chemical suppliers for $70,000.
Morgan, this is David. I move to approve purchase order 5339 to various chemical suppliers for polymers in the amount of $70,000.
This is Bart, I'll second.
David made the motion, Bard second. Any discussion?
This used to be Clean Water that we got our polymer from. They've been sold. ASI is the new company. It's the same exact, we're dealing with the same people that ran Clean Water. It's just they were bought by a parent company, bigger company. There was no real increase over anything, so.
Right, good.
Everything pretty much seems to have stayed the same. And that's been about 6 months that it's been changed, so.
Good, good. And that's a flocculant, is that what that
Yeah.
is? Yes, okay.
Yeah, it's what we use. That's used in our biosolids.
Right, all right. Good, okay. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Calling on a vote, please state your name and how you're voting.
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Eric, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Okay. We have two warrants, which I don't have in front of me here. Anyway,
Morgan, this is David. Move to approve the warrants as presented.
This is Bart, I'll second.
any discussion, questions? There's discussions or question. Calling on a vote, please state your name and how you're voting.
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Eric, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes on the warrants. Okay. Next up, consideration of moving the first Water and Sewer Commission meeting in September to Tuesday, since Monday is Labor Day. That is September the 8th.
Morgan, since Monday, September 7th is Labor Day, I move to move the first Water and Sewer Commission meeting in September to Tuesday, September 8th, due to the holiday falling on Monday, September 7th.
This is Bart, I'll second.
All right, no discussion. Please state your name and how you're voting.
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Eric, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Okay. Next up, update on Tilden Bridge and Cochrane Road water replacement project. Yes.
The old water main at Tilden is shut off. Everybody is on the new one. There's 2 connections left to make now that the old one is discontinued. One is to Baker to the new line, and then up at Jericho, the top of the path at Jericho Road, there's a connection from the new line to the existing supply. But as of right now, all of the services have been switched over and are 100% set on the new systems. So
Congratulations.
yeah, it's been a long time coming. I did get your email today. I called, I have stopped at that house twice to tell them that we were doing stuff with the water system. Never has anybody said there's a problem with the water, including this morning when I told them we were going to have their water off because we were switching their service over. No, neither tenant in either side said that there was any problems with the water. I called the landlord. The landlord's like, yeah, we've had some water problems. I'm like, what have you done? He's like, we cleaned the screens in the PRV and that seemed to give us water on the first floor. We have problems with the second floor showers.
Really?
I said, did you take the shower heads off? He's like, yes. I said, how's your water pressure? All kinds of it. You put the shower heads back on and no water pressure. Right.
No, me.
So,
Is it the shower heads?
well, that's where I asked him to start. I did inform him that he is now 100% on the new system. And, you know, it should be better. But they were going to look into the problems.
I was going to suggest backflow preventer.
Not really. Most generally, there's a screen in your pressure reducing valve, and most often that the house across the road from you,
Yep.
we took theirs out, cleaned it, and put it back in, and everything was fine.
Okay.
He had already done that and had good water pressure. He felt on the first 2 floors. There was just problems with the second floor showers. You know, maybe some dirt or something got into the heads, those little tiny orifices.
Yeah.
You really have to blow them out or clean them or change them. I can't tell him I don't believe it's really a problem of our system. We've got water there, and he admitted it. I mean, he admitted that the water pressure seemed good on the first floor. And it just seemed to be in the shower heads on the second floor. So, I really left it in their court. He didn't really seem too upset about it, but his partner, Ben, had emailed the group email, I guess.
Yeah.
And I did tell Dana that, look, if you have a problem, he's like, yeah, I didn't really feel it was that big a problem. I said, I can't help you with a problem if I don't know about it. So, Bridge Street, they have 4 services to cross across left. If they get those done, 2 tomorrow and 2 on a Wednesday, then Thursday we will flush the main, the 12-inch main going up bridge. And then Friday we will pressure test it. If it passes pressure test, then Monday and Tuesday we will get back samples into the thing. If those pass, then they can start hooking up the services. I think the plan is once they get Bridge Street ready to pressure test, then the crew's going to come back up on Tilden and make those 2 connections that they have to do to finish that project. And when they're done there, it's looking like the beginning of next week, they will start by over by 300 Cochrane Road, connecting that end of Cochrane Road, which the services are all done. That's ready to pressure test as soon as we hook it up to the main. So they'll go from Tilden over there. And then paving on Tilden, I think the first week in September, if not sooner. And then Bridge Street immediately following that. Or they might do Bridge Street before they do Tilden, just to make it better.
School, yeah.
Yeah.
The school starts.
Yeah.
School's the biggest consideration, I think.
Yeah.
I'd say if it can't get
We kind of, they wanted to skip around and they wanted to go over to Cochrane Road and do some work and come back. And I told them no. I told them they needed to concentrate, get off Bridge Street before school's open. So that's what we've kind of been pushing for.
That's coming up, right? Does anybody know? Or
next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday?
Yeah.
They always start in August, yeah.
Yeah, it's been starting before Labor Day. Actually, I see it was even earlier because Labor
Yeah,
Day.
usually it was the last
My
week.
grandson in Florida started last week,
I think they have a 3-day week next week, and then they go Monday, Tuesday,
but
Wednesday.
it gets out in May.
Skip Friday. So
That's Florida though. It's hot.
It's
I know.
Labor Day this year too.
Yeah.
So that's
delayed.
probably why it's probably why it feels earlier. It's still the last Wednesday in August, pretty much. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, next Wednesday, back to school.
So that's kind of the plan, and what they're in pretty good shape. I mean, the one thing that's left for them that's a big item is pecking the ledge on Cochrane Road when they get to it. There's going to be some work there. They know it. I mean, but
There's ledge in the way.
yeah, they did test pits to find out. At one point, they did a test pit. It was like 48 inches down. They did 10 feet. They did a test pit. It's 15 inches down. And then they did another test pit 10 feet over, and it was back down to like 35 inches down. So there is a section there that's pretty close to the surface that they know that it's going to take us some pecking and some time to get
They're going
through.
to chip away at it. They don't have to blast.
They haven't said they were going to need to blast. They think the ledge is appropriate enough to chip and that they can get a depth there. The answer with the old water line was they moved over to the other side of the road, but it was also very shallow there and it froze a couple times. So that was the whole reason that we used to pay or allow the N2 customers on Cochrane Road to run water all winter just to keep it from freezing. So we're trying to get this better. They feel if they can get down to the 60-inch range that they'll be fine with it and they'll blue board it and stuff there. But there still is, a section of a lot of work right there to do, but they're progressing.
Thank you, Steve. Let's see, and now update on water wastewater cyber security in light of recent Iran linked cyber attacks on local water systems.
So it's my understanding that the cyber attacks have been on PLCs.
PLC.
Programmable logic boards.
There you go. Basically, the little computers that run everything at our wastewater plant. The one good thing is we don't have any PLCs in our water plant. So there's
Still have vacuum tubes.
well,
Sending faxes.
I mean, I have a plan to put in the new control panel as a PLC in it. I've kind of been putting that on hold until I find out. I have a list. So what happened was Rural Water came in and they came through and they took a list of all of the PLCs that we have in the wastewater plant, and we don't have any at the water plant. And they took it and they went through it because it's only certain ones that have these back doors that they can get into.
Do we have anything that's online or is it all isolated?
Unfortunately, it's all the SCADA system is online.
So it's connected. Then there's
It is, huh?
But there's a firewall?
There is a firewall. So it's my understanding, I should have sent you the report I got back from Rural Water. We have 2 PLCs at the plant that are of the nature that they could do something with. It's a low risk at our plant because we're not doing a lot with them that would interfere with those, but there is that risk. The water plant is, like I said, even the mission system is 100% protected and stuff. And it's not that type of a thing that they're going in. It's the programmable logic boards that they're really going in.
How expensive would it be to replace one of those if you wanted to get rid of the 2 that are suspect? Not so easy, not so cheap.
One of them is the SCADA system.
which is,
and it's due to be upgraded. I have reached out to Tom Allen, and that's what they recommended. There are some safeguards that he could do if he felt that it was necessary to enact them to kind of close those back doors so they can't get in them. One of them is programmable logic that runs our septic machine. I mean, what are they going to do with it, really? The other one is a brand new one that we put in for the dewatering. And
So worst case scenario, would we just go back to manual control?
yeah,
So what I've understood from just reading a handful of articles, what they do is like open everything up one part or close everything
Right.
down, so it either fills up and overflows or
so
early is.
the septic machine only runs when there's flow. So it doesn't control anything
Right.
as far as how much are in the tanks. That's all controlled separate. And dewatering, it only runs when we're running it. And the worst that it would do is cause an error and have it shut down. Because I mean, really, that one is the newer one. The dewatering one, basically, if anything screws up, it shuts itself down. So, but
But
Yeah.
as far as, and to Bard's point is, when we release the fluid into the river, how is that done?
well, that's through our filter tanks, and the filter tanks, the PLCs in there were not on the list.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Great. Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Steve, one thing, just something when I was working around more that we would come into a fair amount was just whatever laptop or computer you're using to run SCADA at the plant. But that was often a weak point for a lot of folks. It's like, oh, same Wi-Fi password, same router, never a password on the computer sort of thing. And that ended up being like actually the easiest, even though the SCADA is actually pretty secure, like the easiest point of access, just because it's, a computer pretty much serves one function for a lot of folks.
So the SCADA computer is password protected through Simple Roots. And then the only other access is I have a computer at home that has access to it. And that one is double password protected via Simple Roots setup. So I mean, I feel pretty confident. Tom Allen has, it's not Tom, Brian Ford, his second in command, has said that we're pretty well protected on our SCADA's end of it before this even came up. We had that discussion with him about cyber attacks and stuff. So I feel pretty comfortable that we don't have anything going on that's going to be a problem.
No, that sounds good. I think Rural Water did a really good job in the last 5 to 10 years educating folks about two-factor and how to secure your systems and stuff. So
yeah, they came to everybody. It's my understanding they came to everybody in the state that's a member of their organization with, they came through, they walked through, they took all the numbers off of all of the PLCs that we had. They went back, they checked them all against the list of ones that they have. And, they gave me a report that says, you have these that have been in other plants have been hacked. And this is what you need to do. So we're in the process.
Merrick, thanks for your comment, because I was about to ask that if we use two-factor authorization, because as you described that 10 or 15 years ago, that's when I saw this wave across banks, state government, like everybody started doing about at the same time, two-factor authorization. So do we do that in accessing stuff in addition to password?
it's all through our simple roots.
Yeah.
And it is, yeah, there's 2 passwords that I have to put in. And then sometimes I have to access my phone.
Right.
Not always, but
They give you a code.
they give me a code to put in.
Great, good questions. Thank you.
No, the big one was, you don't have a PLC at your water plant? No. Oh, well, then you're okay.
So I guess when we we're going to advance to a PLC system at some point.
As some system, but now I kind of put that one on the back burner, waiting for a more in-depth study on what ones.
Right.
I don't want to put a PLC in that's,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that's, so. I'm
Wait, put the right one in.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, good.
And that'll be part of the bid process anyway, right?
Well,
Yeah.
but that's water versus
Oh, yeah.
versus wastewater,
That's
so
right.
it's not in the same, it'll be a separate. Right,
You guys had already approved a panel.
That's right.
15,000.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a updated quote since we've talked about it.
Okay.
And the new quote did want to put in a PLC.
Okay.
And then I told them, look, we need to wait until I'm comfortable with what PLC we put in.
Okay, great. Thank you. Did you get the letter?
yep, I got it up.
Good.
It did come through.
The letters.
They come snail mail,
It made it.
Passed it under the table.
postage due.
After went to Waitsfield and came back.
Yes.
So here you go.
Yeah. So, just reading, I don't even remember how this popped, but a bill came up in which 2 senators proposed, which is Water Cyber Shield Act, S 5368. There's 2 sponsors or co-sponsors on it right now. And I thought it would be a good idea that we reach out to our senators and ask them to support this bill in some fashion, whether I didn't come out and say, would you please do this? But I mean, they could also be co-sponsors on the bill, or just say they're going to support it and vote for it, which is really ultimately what really matters. So it's just a pretty simple letter, straightforward. Happy for comments. I was thinking the first thing, I didn't know if maybe could just say just grateful for the congressional direct spending in 2026 funds instead of putting an amount there. You might look at the amount going, well, oh my God, now they're asking for more.
$1 million to go. Yeah, that's our job. I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
Is this something that we're going to do as a joint communique, or are we going to put a template up and have each one of us send a copy?
Well, if you'll scroll up, I did have everybody's name here.
Okay.
So, misery loves company if it comes back from us.
Want me to forge Merrick's name?
Yeah, we don't have to sign it tonight. It's not urgent. Merrick, when are you back in town?
I'll be back Wednesday. I can swing over Thursday.
Okay. Well, maybe we can put it on town letterhead and circulate it around, or wait till the next meeting. Oh, that's right.
I could even do it on DocuSign.
Yeah.
I could just put it on letterhead, put it on DocuSign out to all 5 of you. You can all sign electronically.
Yeah.
And then we'll send it in.
That would be perfect.
With a signature that looks nothing like my signature.
Welcome to stop by too, if you'd rather just stop by the office and sign it. Say whatever's going to be easier and better for you guys.
Would it be worth mentioning to you, Steve, to just kind of put a star next to things that could be deemed security related as we go through these upgrades? I mean,
Yeah, I've asked, Kirsten and I have had discussions about this already.
Yeah.
The cyber attacks have come forward right now, but we started cyber security checklists and stuff 2 years ago.
outstanding.
And started working on this to make sure. I mean, this has been out there for a while. The water systems are the ones that they're really targeting because that's the biggest impact on people. But I mean, they could do much more damage on the wastewater end if they wanted to. Yeah, they know it. It's just they can't figure out how to do it. But it's not a laughing matter. It's serious. I mean, you know, it doesn't take much in some of the bigger systems, you know. Even I can't imagine what Champlain Water District is going through. I mean, if they even change their dosing of fluoride a minute amount, it could ruin all the water for most of Chittenden County in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel lucky that we're old school still. But and like I said, I put a slow down on changing that right now. But at some point we will.
That will need to be top of the list of concerns, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, happy for comments, or if everybody's happy, then we can.
That's good to me.
Thanks for doing it. It's very short and sweet. I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, it just seems.
So I'll print it out, put it on letterhead, and I'll just leave it with the town clerk. If you guys would rather stop by and sign it in person, you can come by and sign it in person. And then Merrick, when you're back on Thursday or Friday, you can sign it and we'll mail them in.
Great, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, superintendent's report. It's your night.
Mostly the water line has been taking lots of time. We have luckily the sewer plant is running really, really well right now. Yeah, I know. I actually left at 3:00 today.
Good for you. What time did you get there?
5:30. The plant, Aaron and I have been running the plant pretty much. Mike has been under doing the water installations and stuff with the, you know, making sure everything is right when it's done. Basically babysitting Munson Screw. But Aaron and I have pretty much gotten a really, really good handle on what's going on in the plant. And she is going to be a great operator. I can't say enough about her. She is way ahead of where I was at my length of employment. She has grasped the concepts of what needs to be done and how to operate it, and is doing a really good job. That being said, we're going to sometime this week switch our aeration tank. We've been trying to do that every 6 months. It's lagged a little behind because we just haven't had time. But that usually gives us a little hiccup in the plant, but we feel the plant's running really well right now. What could happen? What can happen? It's the best. We're actually going to try to do it the way I think that the plant was designed to do it. In the past, we've always used a pump, an auxiliary pump to pump from one tank to the other. We're going to try to use our new influent pump and see what it can do. It should be able to handle the flow that we give it out of the old tank and just pump it right back up into Headworks and into the new tank. And that will clean any solids that have accumulated. We still will have solids in the bottom of the old tank, but we're hopefully that it'll work and that it'll be right. It usually takes a couple of it's taken up to a week for the plant to come back to normal operations, but we can expect it. I think we're in a good time. We're not got a lot of hot weather. The microbes will grow back good. And that is the effect on some of the stuff. So we're going to try it probably on Wednesday of this week. And like I said, the water end has been pretty easy. We've been keeping our chlorine a little high with all of the digging and everything that's going on. And, I say high. The state wants us to be at a 0.8. We're at a 1 point. I think today we were at 1.3. So we're really not that high. We can go to 4. Nobody wants 4. That's pool water. But it's high enough that it takes care of any problems or anything that we have. So, yeah, that's about it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good. I just shout out. It's great seeing Aaron and Mike in the communities and giving notices out, and we got a pretty good system. Today was a little bit of a surprise. Munson threw 2 crews up on Tilden to finish today. But we went up, knocked on doors first thing this morning and said, hey, your water sometime today is going to get in. And most people were fine. Nobody was too complaining. So. Okay, good. I want to jump back to the previous. Do we need to make a motion on the letter? Is it required?
You could, just for belt and suspenders, but I got general consensus. But if you want to make a motion, it's probably fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'd like to move to approve the letter to Senator Sanders and Welch in support of a bill to fund cyber defenses for local water systems after a spat of Iran-linked cyber attacks.
This is Greg. I will second the motion.
Any further discussion? No further discussion. Please state your name and your vote.
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Merrick, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Okay. Okay. Review of training provided by Vermont League of Cities and Towns regarding local option tax. Josh, would you like to?
Yeah, I think, you were there, I think Bard was there, and I was there at the meeting. I included the slides. There was a presentation from the LCT, and also a presentation from the Vermont State Department of Taxes. They each kind of covered separate items. A few key takeaways for me was there was some discussion about how different towns had approached local option tax vote in the past. I think one of them left it fairly wide open, didn't specify what they were going to use it for, and it failed. And they thought that it failed because they weren't being specific enough about what it might be used for. And there was also a recommendation not to put that specifically into your motion or put an estimated number into your motion, but have a policy that the select board would pass that says we're going to use it for this project or these types of projects. And then it was also good to hear that you can use it to offset property taxes in general, so it doesn't have to go towards a specific project. That was one thing that Carol LeBounty brought up in the last meeting. I didn't know if that was doable or not, but you can just put it towards your tax rate to help lower your tax rate without going to a specific project. So I thought that was kind of interesting too, especially considering what we're trying to use it for a section of the town. That might be interesting to people to say, oh, you just lower my general property taxes. So it's something to add to the mix. I guess just while you're touching on it, as far as I know, we had tried to talk about next steps to get to a bond vote with Hoyle Tanner. I think there was some maybe vacations. I reached out to Hoyle Tanner, didn't really hear much back until I think today from John Olin. So we're gonna have a meeting with him, me and Steve. I think Morgan's gonna come to that on Thursday, talk about next steps, and we'll shoot for the September 8th meeting to talk about how do we get to the bond vote? What does that look like? How does it look? We do to put the local option tax on the town meeting warning as well, and run those on parallel tracks is going to be a little interesting, but I think that Hoyle Tanner will help us out with that. So apologies, that's not happening tonight, but I think in a few weeks we'll be ready.
Right. It seems to me that this is one of those cases where it's going to require a fair amount of outreach and sort of education in multiple ways over a period of time. Because I heard the same story, and I heard some comments in this room from some people, the same thing. It's just going to be another tax And people are a little cynical and cautious about just another tax and government and stuff. So it's my take that we ought to at least have a frame. And that we should then be clear about what the intent is and why voters should vote for it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, it's unfortunate. We need taxes to operate as a community, but you have to tell the story why it's reasonable. I wanted to point out one other thing too, is that the question of during the talk with League of Cities and Towns is that the monies can only be used, and correct me if I'm wrong, towards municipal projects. So they cannot be used for private paving somebody's driveway or fixing somebody's, whatever, flagpole sort of thing. So it is to go towards municipal projects. And I can't remember if it was just principle oriented or I forgot.
What I picked up is I'm not sure it required project association.
Right, it could be taxes, right?
It's just general revenue, right?
Right.
Yeah, but I think to your point, it has to be like municipal or water and sewer related. It can't be like, oh, we're going to do something for a private citizen.
Right.
We're going to take care of a business. Those are separate grants.
Right. So just to be clear, I think there was a comment of sort of that point the last meeting. So I just wanted to be clear on that. But using it to offset taxes seems to be something that people might be very happy to hear.
Yeah, I think it's worth getting some feedback on to see what people think, because if that's helpful, then maybe that's a good thing to add to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or good use. All right.
So hopefully we'll hear Will Tanner will be able to participate and talk about the community outreach.
Yeah,
how to do that.
Yeah, and that is part of just getting to a bond vote. That was when they talked to us a couple of years ago about that. They talked about a website and communication, but I think adding the local option tax has another layer to that as well. And they can help us out with all of that.
Right.
I think they'll be able to.
I guess the other part, just thinking of not allocating it to anything specific, but once we go into voting on this is we will need whatever that portion of that's raised to go towards paying down the loan. That we don't want the community to start coming in and lobbying like, okay, but maybe we should spend it on X when we've already made this calculated commitment to paying down that as well.
It strikes me that's the politics of this, though. There may be people, that's what you guys want,
right?
But I'm not a customer, and that's not what I want.
Right.
Yeah. I want you to reduce my use it to fix up the town center building.
Right. Yeah.
Example.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No,
that's the sort of thing we heard. It's now a bit dated, but when we were talking about both the water storage tank and expansion into West Main, there was a faction, if you will, of the citizens of some size that were just, why would I want to pay for that?
Right. Absolutely.
I'd be curious to see, Hoyle and Tanner's done a tremendous amount of bond vote preparation. I think generally those are, PowerPoints that are hosted at a meeting like this and the public can show up and ask questions. Just sort of always had wondered if there was value in, sort of sharing a little bit more from Steve and operator side, because I feel like a lot of that generally just gets into the very we need to meet X treatment targets. This is what it costs to do that. And people just have sort of visceral gut reactions to the price tags, which are quite high. So I don't know. I just thought it could be sort of interesting at some point if it's front porch forums, the appropriate spot, or generally, I don't think we need to get into it now. People generally think about these things right before the vote, but just for being a project that's pretty large for our community, I think folks will be pretty impressed with the price tag. I think, there's a lot of general folks who are in support of public health and such, but the scale is pretty large. So I think sort of having a little bit more could be valuable for this, which is, fairly important to move forward. So just a thought as you start to meet with Hoyle and Tanner to sort of talk through that. You know, they've done a ton of these for small communities that had very large projects, and I think pretty successfully, but, you know, always good to sort of think about it a little bit more for our community as well. I think Richmond's a little unique in the extent that there are a lot of people with, you know, free time and pretty well versed into digging into things and, you know, figuring out what they may or may not agree with. So I think good to sort of also provide like other sides of, you know, education besides just like, here are the strict numbers and this is why we're voting for it sort of thing.
Right.
I'll just add for some past projects, it was not just Front Porch Forum, but the time sink. Because one of the things that we've heard in the past is that different parts of the population get their communication from different sort of vehicles. And it's hard to believe, but there are some people who don't read Front Porch Forum or even use computers or.
They are still plenty.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, I think that's a good idea on different channels. And also, I think the tour we did of the plant, I think that was last summer. We still have a video of that. It was like a 2-hour tour, I think. But it was great because Steve went through a lot of like, here's what this machine is. Here's where it works. Here's where it's not working. Here's what we need to do to upgrade that. And I think we have that video, so that's good for people to watch. And I think you've mentioned in the past, we could do a couple more of those tours because getting into the facility really opens your eyes to exactly what it looks like and what upgrades it does need. It only reaches a certain number of people that are willing to go there for an hour, but it is helpful.
September 30th, we've got the 6th grade class from Camel's Hump coming down.
What? You need to put a creamy machine in your budget.
Yeah. We can make creamies.
All right, stop right there.
Good PR, only good PR.
Okay.
John, please.
Okay. Now,
Maybe it could coincide with a farmer's market evening, you know, like before Steve heads out on a Friday.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm usually there after the farmer's market. So anybody I talk to in town know that anytime the gates are open, they're welcome to come down and we'll make time to give a tour. I mean, we've given it to the senior citizens who've come down and taken a tour. There was some commercial users that came down and took a tour. We're not hiding it. If you want to come down and take a tour, we're more than willing to give you a tour.
Merrick, I flashed when you mentioned the farmers market. Various organizations, and I think at times in the past, the town has actually had tables at events like Farmers Market, July 4th. If you think of the different strategies of reaching different citizens, sometimes it's in person.
Should have had one at 4th of July, didn't we?
Right, but the holiday market, for instance, the big one that might be in the right timing for us. Farmers market might be a little bit over before we get going, but it's a good point.
But starting to get out. No, Merrick, absolutely.
I think we're still a small enough community with, you know, even if when you look at like the number of people who vote, that if you can connect with 100 people directly over the course of the project, like you probably get most of the votes you need between them and, you know, if they talk to one other person, essentially. So
that's right. Word of mouth. So great. Thank you. Last up, follow-up and discussion of potentially relocating the wastewater pump station to the 401 Bridge Street parcel.
So I've not made a lot of progress on trying to put costs to the request for the easement. With the 3-week break between this meeting and the next meeting, I'm going to try to chase some of those personally. I've sort of put out some emails, didn't get a lot back, so I need to make some follow-ups and just schedule some time to sit down with some people to get some numbers to paper. So again, I think by the next meeting, I should have more information on that, as well as the cost difference between rebuilding in place and rebuilding up at the Bresser property. And Mary's other question.
Okay.
Morgan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mary.
Is there a name associated with that number of Bridge Street, an owner named?
Gary Bressers.
Great.
Gary and Jean.
Thank you.
Sure.
Steve, is there any ill-timed work problems related to what you're doing on Bridge Street now? And
Any what?
well, some of the requests that were part of this involved slightly modifying drainage and stuff in and around that section of Bridge Street, and I just wondered if there's any impact on your current work in the area.
So, the two things that we have done, one was the Historical Society asked us for a curb stop.
Yeah.
That was just at a curb stop. There was not a lot of, and whether the pump station goes through or not, the 8-inch water main going on to that corner for Gary Brassor, we did. That was in the original plans anyway. So that's in there.
Okay.
And I think he said he would pay for it if all this falls
I
through.
think both of those should be paid for, one by the Historical Society,
Right.
one by Gary if this falls through,
Yeah.
like we talked about at the meeting.
So the storm drain things, all Pete has asked is that they get done before we are done for the winter.
Yeah.
He wants them done this year if they can be done. We don't have any intent on having Munson do those projects, I don't believe.
Okay.
Branson's water.
But he has asked that they get done, when the road is kind of torn up this year,
Yeah.
not next year when he plans on grading,
Maybe.
grinding it down and repaving it over. He wants kind of that frost freeze cycle to happen for a year. So,
Yeah.
so most of these things need to happen pretty soon.
I don't know why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta keep it. Yeah. Good point. We do have to keep it moving.
Yeah. From our point of view, the two things that are involved in this project, they're done.
Okay.
One was done today and one was done when they came through. So with the new main. So,
Mary?
Yeah, I have a question about the property owner at 401 Bridge Street. Is there an issue where it's not going to be allowed, or is there some hesitancy on the homeowner's part, or the landowner's part, to transfer the ability for the town to do what they need to with related to water? Because I have personal knowledge that there was a little bit of browbeating on a neighbor across the road by this person. So is there hesitancy to allow a right of way or something?
No, it's just trying to figure out the details of one of it is where the tank is now with the pumps is giving up that easement and getting easement there working for this.
One for one.
Well, he had a list of, I think it was 8 requests that I included in the packet for this meeting and the previous meeting. And what we're trying to do is figure out how much is each one of those requests going to cost so that the commission can make an informed decision on granting those requests or not, and how much it will cost to rebuild the pump station in place versus rebuilding it at the Brustor location, and how much they would save by moving the pump station.
Okay, and I find it also interesting, and you'll find it is the zoning person's around later on. That structure that is there, that little red building, the farm structure there, that's currently an illegal structure in the floodway. However,
I don't know which building you're talking.
That little red building from Bridge Street, you go as if you're walking over to the pump house, where you guys had to move the road because it didn't suit access.
Yeah.
Okay, that's his former farm building, and that's not supposed to be there since he's no longer farming. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And I just think it's interesting that this seems to be taking so long, and that there's a series of requests that have to be met for the town. I was threatened with eminent domain by the town when they wanted me to take Greystone's runoff. And I was told by the town attorney at the time, unless you comply, we're going to proceed with it. And I said, what about if I'm laying in the ditch? And they said, well, that's the way it goes. We have to proceed with it. They were going to proceed with taking my land to facilitate Greystone drainage, which is neither here nor there. It's just one of those things. It's who you are in this town. Thank you.
Bart?
So going back to Mary's first comment about sort of, is it a trade? We haven't decided anything.
Right.
If I recall correctly, the town owns the land where the current pump station is.
Yes.
And the request was to give that property from the town to the property owner and then not own the other property, but get an easement on it. One can discuss the relative value of owning the land versus having an easement on the land. But this is all the reason I think why it merits a public conversation about what is it that we should do where the financing makes sense. Not just if we were, Elon Musk buying something, but recognizing the constraints on the water sewer users, whether it's time and money of our staff or money to pay somebody else to do something. I think we should just be thoughtful and transparent about those decisions and conversations.
And in my understanding, I think we're trying to be there. That's why we need to get the prices so we can sit down and look and say, this is what it's going to cost if we stay where we are. This is what it'll cost if we move. And does those 8 things, is it a good for everybody?
Good deal.
Yeah.
And I think it's reasonable for citizens to bring up, what's happened in the past, what precedent we have for similar arrangements and how those played out.
Yeah.
Probably gonna wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Any other comments or questions? No comments or questions?
Question. So my understanding is underneath that pump house is a big aquifer that has enough water for the town of Richmond. Why would we want to
What are we?
underground under that building?
So we're talking 2 different things.
That's the water pump house.
We're talking about the sewer pump station
Oh, in the ground?
in the ground
By the
that
sidewalk.
pumps the sewage across the bridge.
Okay, I'm late to the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Morgan, this is David, so moved.
Is Bart all second?
All in favor, say aye.
Bart, aye?
Greg, aye.
David Ike. Merrick, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Try not to.
Josh, should I come Thursday?
I
roundabout.
was having a hard time connecting some of those asks to what we were doing.
Yeah, there's a strategy.
But some of it made sense. If you're going to take this, I need a new.
Good to go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 17th meeting of the Richmond Selectboard. Do we have any public comment? Mary?
Here, yep, very cool. It not so much as a Vermont issue yet, but it could be because all politics are local. Yesterday, Maura Healey, the governor of Massachusetts, signed into law essentially what is infanticide law. A mother can abort her child. If the baby's due tomorrow, the child can be aborted today. I would pray to God that our town representative and the representatives of everybody in the state would pay attention to that kind of stuff so it doesn't creep northward. It's already enshrined in the Constitution that a mother can end a child's life pretty much in the first 2 trimesters. But to know that Maura Healey is such a despicable creature, it's just terrible. And I pray to God that doesn't come up to Vermont. Thank you.
Mary, do we have any other public comment? Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Just on to the main agenda. First, we have a review of the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission group expectations. We touched on this last week, or two weeks ago, sorry.
It's meeting.
Last meeting, yeah, it's the safe way to put it. And we were going to all mull it over, see if we had any comments. Don't have any thoughts, have a chance to read it over again, mull it over. Wake up in the middle of the night and think about it.
There we go. Thank you.
So our goal was to have these, or I guess not a goal, a thought was to have these posted in our meeting room and maybe reviewed quickly in the beginning of the meeting, just to reiterate how we expect everyone in the room to treat each other, including the select board. It's kind of as far as we had got with it. Craig?
One thing I don't see sort of explicitly referenced here, and I would hope to express to the public, is that we talk about a variety of topics. When we do that, everyone should focus on a topic on the table and not make it personal. And I don't want people leaving this room feeling like they've been personally assaulted because their side of the issue didn't win, or it seems like there's a majority against that viewpoint. We deal with the subject matter at hand, and I don't want this to be personal. I don't want people to take it personally. They should understand that they may not win the day, but that they still have our respect, and we're still interested in hearing what they have to say. And it's just
Mary?
So, Mary Hool, related to what you just said, Select Board Member Rabideau, when you suggested that one of the audience members was up to mischief, and when you sat beside me last time I was here and you said, I'm going to sit by a troublemaker, what the hell did you mean by that? If you can't abide by that, you might as well waltz out of here and don't take it personal, because you just said we shouldn't.
Well,
Troublemaker.
no, I think you've made a good point, and I stand to learn from this process as much as it's a two-way dialogue. I wouldn't.
Man,
I understand that.
5 years old.
No, I'm not, and I think we've started this process. It's not just for the benefit of the board; it's for the benefit of the people like you who come and sit and take positions. I was trying to be friendly, but it was really inappropriate. If the way I put that to you, if you took offense, then I owe you an apology. But in the main, that's why we're going through this process. Is we don't want it. I don't want it to devolve to what they call ad hominem attacks. And I know you're skeptical, but I think that's why this has come up. And I think it's to the benefit of participants on both sides of the table that we have a policy like this.
Anything we'd like to do with it? Make tweaks, mull it over.
This is part of, I am not wed to any one of these, but to the point that was just made, having observed the ups and downs of behavior in this room over a number of years, that's really the purpose of this, is to try to improve, if you will, people's self-regulation in terms of, when people are upset or anxious or angry, that return to what our sort of rules of engagement are here as we work together. So again, I'm not wed to any one of these, but I do think we should adopt something and then hold ourselves accountable to the framework, and frankly, arguably, hold each other accountable to the principles, expectations.
Adam, I like these, like Bart and Gary have suggested, that could be tweaked or modified a little bit. But I would support this being a standalone universal code of conduct. But I think it would also be a good idea to review expectations of the meeting, keeping comments germane to the article being discussed, public comment at the beginning, items not on the agenda, but that would be a separate standalone.
I think we're going to expect this to be a quick process to solve any problems, right? It would probably not. Anything we do quickly will not be permanent or lasting. So.
Well, I have a suggestion, in an attempt to move forward, perhaps put on our letter and say, Richmond Selectboard group expectations or principles, turn it into our document and then come back to it as a potential final, to be any final additions, edits.
That makes sense. Bring it back in September.
And I would add the one that has been implicit here in the Regional Planning Commission, and I think people have adhered to it without having to refer to it very much in that venue. But maybe something about reminding ourselves, holding ourselves and each other accountable to the principles. That could be in a preamble.
Yes. But I think this is good. I think people often have the best intentions, but there's drift. I think this would be good at keeping focus.
Great.
So bring it back on letterhead next agenda and see where we go from there.
Great. Thank you, Josh.
That's it.
Next, we have consideration of approval of request by Radiate Art Space to place signage in the town right-of-way to promote the art crawl, which is being held on Sunday, September 27th, 2026.
Is there anybody here?
Anyone? Oh, I see Judy's here, yeah.
Oh, Judy is here.
I'm here. Okay. I don't really have anything to say except that I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
I'm pulling up the request. So the request is for event signage on all 5 roads that we call out: intersection of Huntington and Cochrane, Huntington and Heinsberg, Dugway and Huntington, West White Hill and Cochrane Road. And they also looked for a banner at Main Street, at the top of Main Street, next to the Green Sea Building. So I think that was it. So that's 2 weeks prior. And then 3 signs the day of on Bridge Street and in the town center for basically parking and entrance direction.
I don't have any questions. Does any board member have questions?
The duration of the time they're asking for, is this going to go up on a date and come down at?
Yep,
Right.
it goes up 2 weeks before the event, and the event date is Sunday, September 27th. So they'd be up for 2 weeks and then taken down after the event is over.
Thank you.
Go up to 13th.
Yeah.
13th to 27th. Would anyone on the board like to make a motion to approve the request?
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to approve the request by Radiate Art Space to place signs in the town right-of-way promoting their art crawl for 2 weeks prior to the event, which is planned for Sunday, September 27th, 2026, and to allow them to place signs the day of the event at the town center in the corner of Bridge Street and Church Street.
Sparta, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next, we have consideration of approving a request by the 4th of July Parade and Fireworks Committee to hold a coin drop at the intersection of Bridge Street and Route 2 on Saturday, October 10th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.
I'm asking permission.
I'm not sure there's a lot of explanation needed, but would you like to use a couple of your minutes to give us a spiel about anything related to the parade?
We had great this year. We're looking for more public support, not really support, interaction, I guess, or participation. But help, yeah, help. I mean, there's so many businesses in town. Or one of our surveys says, why was there only one float? We're pushing to do all we can, and we're looking for another coin drop so we can have more funds to help do some of these things, to keep it free for some of the kids, or for any of the kids, and some way to keep it going. We're on about 40, well, been going a lot longer than that, but official 4th of July committee started in like 82.
It's a while.
Yes, so we're just trying to keep it going.
Ard, your question?
I thought first we just sort of set the stage that costs have risen pretty significantly in recent years. So that's one variable for folks to consider. But I was also going to ask if you have a sense of this, how much we earn in the coin drop, and how many people donate? Like, is it a high percent, a low?
Probably 80% of the few that went through the intersection. And it's at a buck a head. We had $970 worth of $1 bills.
Yeah.
Even if they're just people with $1, whatever change, out of state people, in-state people.
That's why we used to do it on graduation of Mount Mansfield, because we had no people. And now we're doing it on Columbus Day, even though that's inappropriate because of bereaved people.
Yeah.
Our goal is to not, if you know, we didn't for 40 years and we still don't want to do it, but our last coin drop was the most we ever made in all the years we did it. It was $4,320.
That's great.
And we're still working with we don't know what's going to happen with the company in the private, because it's been sold to a big conglomerate, but we'll keep trying. look for other, I think there's a couple of other businesses that do it.
Drones are not an option.
That's like 40 or $50,000.
$40,000 or $50,000
Yeah,
years ago.
that's worth mentioning here because it comes up.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's important to keep this second coin drop viable because state of Vermont, V-Trans, and all the other jokers that run the state highway system, we've established a precedent and we're allowed to have 2 coin drops here. And I think the fire department surrendered the second one.
Yes.
They fought to take it away from the 4th of July and then they stopped, not that they're not interested, but I guess, their participation is minimalized. So keeping the 2 coin drops available on Route 2, I think is very important. Once you let it slide, V-Trans go, oh, it stopped it. So it's a very important thing to keep it going. Thank you.
And we do have to talk to Suzanne. Basically, she's waiting for select board approval before she sends in the application. We had to have a certain map for them with designated how far from the intersection and what sign was going where and make sure we had all the signs. So we've got all that situated now. So we're just waiting for your approval so Suzanne can send it in.
Each year we evolve and try to do more and try to supplement what we lost.
And give it a chance. You've got 11 months to decide if you want to walk or not, or ride in the parade.
I just lined it up.
I offered a vehicle, just saying.
Yeah.
Before I make a motion, I just wanted to thank you publicly as a member of the public, not as a select board member. Everybody had a couple hours of a great time, and that was due to many days of hard work and many weeks of planning. So thank you. That's a huge ask.
It's also important to realize, which I didn't for many years, our businesses do very well. And I think that's great, And we just keep plugging along, and it's for the kids.
And all the kids I saw were having a great time.
Yep, it's all for the kids.
So, Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to approve the request for the 4th of July Parade and Fireworks Committee to hold a coin drop at the intersection of Bridge Street and Route 2 on Saturday, October 10th, 2026, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.
This is Bart, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have consideration of approving a request from Project Altogether Now for $2,000 from the Community Wellbeing Budget line item. We have Gabby here with us. Hey, Gabby. Would you like to?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yes, so we are requesting $2,000 for expenses incurred before June 30th. Basically to cover intern stipends. So we are a prevention coalition that is run by high school interns. And so they did some brilliant work this spring. We hosted a substance-free teen trivia night for the first time. They went to the prevention day at the State House and did some networking and presenting. We're working on a project with the Larner College of Medicine to improve mental health supports for youth in the area this fall. And so all of our work is led by these youth interns and they receive a stipend. So that's basically what this would cover. We might have Elise on here. I can't tell who's one of our interns if you have any questions, but I can also answer any questions.
Just to add a little more context, so that budget line is funded with an offset in funds from the Opioid Reserve Fund, which is money that the town of Richmond and several other towns across the country received as a result of several opioid lawsuits. And that money is specifically supposed to go towards prevention, which Project Altogether Now is working on diligently here in Richmond.
Thank you, Josh. Do we have any questions from the select board? Questions from the public? We'd like to give them the money if there are no questions.
Just quickly, how many clients, if we can use that word, do you see? And are you strictly in Richmond, or are you spread out around the county?
Yeah, so we're just Eastern Chittenden County, so we're very close. We work very closely with the MMU school district, and so all of our events are primarily for people in those towns in the school district. We are majority, or we serve a majority of the people we serve are from Richmond, just because that's the demographic of the region.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move that the town of Richmond allocate $2,000 from the community well-being budget for the project altogether now, intern stipends, in the amount of $2,000.
This is David. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you. Important work.
Next, we have consideration of approval of access permit AC 2026-002 for access to a lot at 20 Apple Tree Lane. Josh, do you want to give us some background on this?
Sure. Share my screen with this one. So this is a building lot up on Apple Tree Lane near Greystone, or off of Greystone. What's it pops up here? All right, so this here is Greystone Drive. This is Apple Tree Lane. This is the lot here. It's very small, not if it's actually buildable, sort of in this footprint here. So they have sort of limited spot for where they can put their access. Where they staked it out, though, Pete went and looked. They have 275 feet?
Yes.
Looking this way, as long as a few trees are cut down here, they can see up this road 275 feet before they turn and get to the driveway. And they have full line of sight to the bottom. There's a cul-de-sac just below here on this area. So line of sights are good. It looks good to Pete, and this now comes to the select board for their approval.
So is this access permit conditional on those trees being removed?
Yes.
Okay.
Any more questions? Someone like to make a motion to approve?
Adam, this is David. I move to approve access permit AC 2026-002 for an access to 20 Apple Tree Lane.
Bart, I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Next, we have consideration of request to create a no parking zone on portions of Dugway Road that run along the Aldrich Farm property in exchange for providing the town with an easement for repairs to Dugway Road that are necessary due to damages from the 2023 and 2024 floods. Josh, do you want to give us, Andy here with us today?
Yeah.
Give us an update.
With Mr. Aldrich with us. So this was talked about at the last select board meeting. As we said, the town needs an easement from Mr. Aldrich to do some work to repair damage from the 23 and 24 floods on Dugway Road along Huntington River. Most of it's in the right of way, but the toe of the slope is on land owned by the Aldriches. We do have a bit of a clock on this one. At the last meeting, we had a completion date of end of November. We've talked to Vermont Emergency Management. They're willing to give us an extension for 6 months. So that would give us the end of May. However, we do still need to get most of the river work done by the end of, or all of the river work done by the end of December. We have an extension from Vermont Rivers, or Vermont, the Rivers Management folks in Vermont, for the exact name. Usually it's earlier, mid-October that you have to be out of the rivers by, but they have allowed, because it's emergency work, to give us an extension until the end of December. So the goal here would be to secure an easement, open the bids. It is out to bid right now. Open the bids once we have the easement secured, hire a contractor and get them in to at least get into the river prior to December 30th, and then work throughout the winter and spring to rebuild the road. It is work they can do in cold weather. There's no concrete pours on this. It's simply building back up. So that's where we're at now. Last time we spoke, we looked like the Aldriches really wanted a no parking area. I'm going to share my screen here. On Dugway Road, and we talked quite extensively about the reasons why. So that would be these yellow areas where their property essentially butts the river. Is requested area. The red is the current no parking zone over on Dugway Road. did have a conversation with Chuck Gilroy this morning. He said that I think technically these lots over here extend across the river. So there's not technically road frontage perhaps on the Aldrich, but I think that his request, he can speak for it, but I think they still want that basically where their property is right next to the river. There's a small sliver of neighboring property, it seems like, but that's his request. So I guess it's open for discussion between Andy Aldrich and the board as far as where we're going to go.
Yeah.
I'll say this, a couple things. We've been asking for 10 years. No response whatsoever from the town for this. At the last meeting, we discussed a lot of the reasons why we want it. And the way, when I got this warning for this meeting Saturday morning, I wasn't comfortable with the way it was worded. It makes it sound like, you know, not the way it really is. So for this issue being around for 10 years, and the only time, this is the first time that I actually feel that we've been heard. This is the first time that we feel that maybe there's a little bit of acknowledgement to the issues. To link them to your need for the right-of-way is the part, as I said at the last meeting, we didn't have a direct link between, you know, you got to do this, we're not going to do that, or vice versa. But so I came with the way it was worded that you had a proposal in mind to us as to what you were offering. That's the way I read into that. So, you know, with specifics. Because I as I said, it's two items that have gotten linked together because nothing's been done for 10 years. And now you need something. That's a sad story in itself. You know, just to say that, well, we'll pay you with a no parking zone. There's no details to that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, there has to be details to that. There has to be
The part we struggle with is that the process for committing to the no parking zone formally on paper is close to a year long. So it would be pretty disingenuous. We would be lying to you if we said we can give you a no parking zone. Because of the ordinance change in the process and the potential for a petition to undo the ordinance change. I mean, there's a good chance that we can commit to it in good faith and still not be able to follow through. And I guess personally, I don't think that's right to formally commit to you that we would be able to guarantee you this ordinance change in exchange for this, knowing that there's a good chance it's out of our hands and it would fall apart. I mean, yeah, I would feel like we misled you if we were to try to put something on paper that guaranteed you this ordinance change, because we can't guarantee that, I don't think.
I'll add, I appreciate your comments about these things not being necessarily connected, but I will observe on at least several, if not numerous occasions, property owners have come to us and said, in exchange for this easement, I want that. That is a really common approach for a property owner to take in interactions with the town about, if you want something, a quid pro quo, what do I get? And other times people are just like, whatever.
Sure, I've done that before in my life. I did it with the state of Vermont once. Coming to mind, I can think of two towns where I've done that. But things went more congenially,
Yeah.
weren't just thrown aside for year after year. And you know, that's that part of it. I would probably guess it may not work.
Which might not work.
For either side.
Closing off the parking.
Oh.
Yeah.
It, you know, if you say, well, we'll try to do it, you know.
I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you, and that's why I don't think any of us would be willing to commit to doing it, because that commitment we wouldn't be able to make that commitment and follow through on it within our control. There's a good chance it'd be out of our control if we could follow through. And I guess personally, I would only want to make a commitment that was within the control of the board to follow through on. So I think you're right in that it might not work. And I think our hesitancy to just come with specifics to commit to it is knowing that if we did that and we got the easement and it fell apart.
Have you created other parking spaces adjacent to private property where there's no public property or use or building or anything anywhere in town?
No, not from, I don't know all the details of every private parking spot.
I don't really know. It's a good question in the context of your experience, of course. And your point, I think, in the previous meeting was there was a point in time where the road did not have the topography that it currently has, where it's wider with room to park. That at some point in the past, it didn't have that. So the town affirmatively, at some point, whether consciously or not, created a place where people would park, which I think probably informs your request here that if the town created it, can the town uncreate it? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like that's it.
You know, it was really difficult for the average person to put a vehicle there before that road work, because it's a bank, and then it's trees.
And I will observe also that at the last meeting we had people, not surprisingly, illustrating the tension between recreational access. You know, there aren't many places to park, so do we want to take parking places away? I don't know that there's a great compromise on this issue. You either have the parking spots, or we either have them or we don't.
But these parking spots are creating people recreating and people doing not good things. And if they didn't exist, almost, I'm not naive enough to say all, but almost all would go away.
And that's really a function of when my guess is a change over time in terms of the volume of people doing it and perhaps their behavior.
Well, we've been there for a few generations, so.
But Mary had something to say,
thank
and then I think Greg had something.
Relates to parking ordinance on private property. Well, you have. It's called the Bombardier Field, which is privately owned by the Richmond Land Trust. The special ordinance was created. Can't park here, can't park there. There's roped up, there's not rope up. And now, if you'd please tell me how this is different, except for the money value, than what we're going to be discussing in line J, the Mary Drive. What Andy is asking for is reasonable. And again, sometimes it takes the issue of the flooding to bring what he's been asking for 10 years to the attention of everybody, where you're actually going to do something about it. So how is this actually different, except for the dollar value, for line J? But yes, you have created ordinances for parking related to private land, and that's the Bombardier Field in Jonesville, which is privately owned by the Richmond Land Trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Greg?
I want to preface my remarks by saying that I visited this site and walked it with Mr. Aldridge. I think the map is a little bit misleading because the yellow lines on the map extend along some areas that are substantially not parkable.
Okay.
And I think you started your comments with saying we need more detail. I think it would be helpful to have an actual plat map of that section of the road if we're going to do anything in this regard. Richmond has a lot of beautiful places. A lot of them are accessed via or through private land. And the forbearance of the people who live on Dugway Road makes this possible for the broader community. And when people begin to abuse that privilege and act badly, I'm supportive of the idea of, if you could have behaved, this would have been fine, but
Here we are.
So, I'd like to put a hat in the ring for modifying the parking ordinance, but not based on that map. And if it takes extra effort, I know that there are members of the parking committee here. They can help address the issue. But I saw the sensitivities really around a handful of sections of those yellow bars. Immediately in front of your brother's house, for instance, or in the area around the sugar house. Most of that section of Cochran's Road drops from the edge of the road, drops straight down. That's why we're in this mess. And I agreeing with Mary here. There may be some distinctions to be made between these various properties, but if the town needs something from you and this is your opportunity for a quid quo pro, I don't think there's anything dishonorable about that. I think that's how things work. And we are receptive to that. We have in the past tried some things and people got upset and overrode us, but I don't think that should keep us from trying at least. Especially understanding, that part of what makes part of what makes Dugway Road such a special place is the people who have been living up there forever, who've taken care of the land and stewarded it. I think that perhaps not an outright ban on all parking along your frontage. I don't know how practical that is. I'm not sure how necessary it is, but I think it's reasonable for us to try to take a step in Mr. Aldridge's direction, especially since we need to deal with this other issue. Adam's being as honest and forthright with you as he can. That we might go through this effort and get kneecapped somehow, but I don't think that's a good reason to not try in this instance. I think a lot of the people who are using this resource are younger. A lot of them are coming from out of town. Richmond is a magnet for people who want to come and have fun in the woods. That they don't always come with the ethics that the people who grow up here, who've been here for a while, understood. In the past, if you went across somebody's land, you asked for permission, and those kinds of values sometimes get lost, when you're 18 years old and you've had a couple of tall boys. And so anyhow, understanding the desire to make these natural places accessible to all the citizens of Richmond, I don't think it should fall on particular citizens to suffer for it. And if Mr. Aldridge is saying this isn't working out for him and his family, then there's something in me that wants to try to find relief there. You and I discussed ideas on the spot that didn't seem necessarily wouldn't help, like providing portalets somewhere to keep people from using your woods as a bathroom, that kind of thing. But to the matter at hand, we owe it to all the people who live on Dugway Road to get this road in good repair before it blows out like it did over there by the falls. That was a catastrophic failure. For want of a nail, right, as they say. We need to get on with that project. So, that's where I'm at on it. Is I would like to try to find a way to make this work for you, but I think the map as we've seen it is too broad, and that if we could dial it in on a handful of spots that are
That one thing with the map,
yeah.
on the south side of Dugway, at each end of our property, people park there.
Yeah, and I don't have any doubt of that, but I've taken a close look at it, and a good many sections of that are just too steep for anybody to do.
That's true, but what I'm saying is if you're going to squeeze it down, and the reason that we're asking for all our frontage is because if you go to the very ends of our frontage, there are places that you can pull vehicles over, and they do.
I was just going to observe it doesn't seem to me there's a disadvantage of putting no parking in an area where you cannot park.
Right.
But you can't park there anyway. Putting a sign that says you can't park there doesn't seem to me to be overly intrusive or.
Yeah, I understand that. I just think when you look at the map, it looks like a huge ask, and in truth, you're not asking for that many parking spaces to be voided. I know there are people who can speak to that issue better than I can. I'm just carrying forth sympathy for your position on the matter, and a sense of commitment to making sure we get to this road project, and so those are my thoughts.
Just real quick. Just to follow up, so as we said in the last meeting, I didn't recap it. This is only about 5 or 6 parking spots.
Yeah.
So I think there's a few up in this area, and then a few across the street here. But Mr. Aldrich's request was border to border of his road frontage, and there's not parking in the majority of them. So it's about 5 or 6, if that helps people conceptualize what the real ask is.
Good. Yeah. Chuck Gilroy, live on Dugway Road, on the Parking Advisory Committee, not speaking for the committee, speaking as a resident of Dugway Road. So what I was trying to convey earlier was that this map exaggerates the effect of the no parking on Andy's property. This is the Yaggies property here, which borders the Aldriches. They own to the river, as all these houses own to the river. So this yellow line should terminate about here. None of this would be affected by any decision made here tonight. And Josh pointed out we're talking, according to the chief, we're talking 5 or 6 parking spaces. It's well within Andy's right to stick 2 big logs next to the road in the right of way and block those spaces. He's trying to do this the right way. It's well within Andy's right to post his land and deny access to the entire riverbank. But he's trying to do this the right way. Bart, I think this is different than me saying, I don't like cars in my front yard and I don't like hearing people, because ignore the leverage we're trying to use here. We are trying to protect a Richmond business. We are talking about somebody who runs 2 agricultural businesses in an agricultural residential zone. This is no different than Chuck Farr or Dave Conant coming to you folks and saying, these cars are parked here and they're interrupting my ability to make a living. So I think you can tell me when I come to you and say, Bart, I don't like cars in my yard, you can say, Andy was different. I'm protecting a business. Maybe I can give you an help here. That's my feeling on how that works. This is bigger than somebody who's annoyed by people parking. I mean, the list of things that Andy's put up with is monumental.
Yeah.
If he was to post his land, looking at all the riverbank he owns, access to the river, I know you can't post the river, but access to the river would be totally denied for a long ways. I think Greg makes a great point. There's a lot of riverbank there. You wouldn't want to walk down to get to the river. I mean, it is steep. I don't know what Pete has in mind for guardrails. But I look at most of the section above, let's say from here, the picture of the Christmas tree woods and sugar house being here, most of the section from here to here looks like it could easily have guardrails the whole way. except for the one place where Andy needs to access that one lower field. In which case you pretty much mute the fact that you're gonna have posted or not posted. Pardon, a good point. You know, I don't care if you put no posted, no parking signs where people can't park. You're not gonna lose any friends. I think it really working with Andy is the best out here. I think not working with Andy puts a bad face on all of us. If Andy wants to, he gets everything he wants anyways by posting and blocking parking areas, and all of which is legal. I think we're just, you know, I think we got to reach a trust factor here between us and Andy as far as, you know, we're going to do our best to do X, Y, Z. I don't know how we're going to do that.
That's good wording. I think that's ultimately the most of a commitment we can make and really follow through on, is we'll start the process and do our best to it. It's just, you know, personally, I'm a little hesitant because we can't write on paper, we will make this a no parking sign. And that's, you know, that's what I was imagining bringing to you, and we can't do that and have it be 100% honest. And so I personally didn't think it was worthwhile to bring to you a promise of we will try our best. But if starting the process and working through this and the process is laid out to amend the ordinance is acceptable to you, I think we can commit to that process. We just can't guarantee a date and a no parking. I think we've seen a lot of projects in town. A lot of them go through very smoothly, but there's always a chance that something has a hiccup or an issue. And so making 100% commitment wouldn't be in good faith.
And putting my parking advisory hat back on for a second, if this was brought to the parking advisory committee, Andy, I can't guarantee you the parking advisory committee is going to side with you.
Right.
I'd like to think we would, but again, I can't make the same promise you can't make.
But we'll thoroughly review it. I think we can commit to thoroughly reviewing it and taking all the issues into consideration and pursuing it.
I was going to say, it seems to me that we could commit to pursuing what he asked for, knowing that there's no guarantee of the outcome because of the ordinance process and potentially things like petitions, et cetera. So we could say it's our intent to pursue this. It's also, as been discussed here, I think it's my opinion, the only way to, first, there are probably places there aren't guardrails where guardrails would help safety. Because you go off the road, you kind of keep going.
It's the majority of the road.
And then the way to close off, if we agree to do that, is probably guardrails. I'm not going to address the question whether it's legal for a landowner to put a log in the right of way, or a rock in the right of way, or even the town to put a rock or a log. It seems to me the proper way for the town to close off something is to put a guardrail and put signs up. That's just business.
Yeah, I think the logs might run afoul of snow plowing activities in the winter. I just can imagine driving along in a 13-yard dumper and hit the end of it.
Something taking out the time.
That would wake you up.
The town can't put a rock in the right of way, and the town can't put a log in the right of way. My understanding is the landowner can.
Yes, I'm Matt Buckley, and I'm also, like Chuck, I've talked to you in my capacity as a Dugway Road landowner and not as a member of the parking committee. Chuck articulated much of what I was going to say, but I just want to point out that I think any language that the select board uses, I was a little bit worried about the quid pro quo language, because I think what needs to be done is to make sure that there's a record that this is a situation that is unique to Andy. And the reason I think it needs to be clear that it's unique to Andy is because a lot of folks, myself included, I have frontage on Dugway that right now allows about 4 cars to park. And I can tell you about 40 years of the trouble that I've had. It doesn't come close to the trouble that Andy has, and I've had plenty of trouble. But my point is, I wouldn't want the precedent to suggest that, well, Matt Buckley can now come and ask for a parking change on Dugway, or Chuck could come and say he doesn't want to have to block his driveway again with the tracker or whatever you had to do this. You know, there's a lot of folks on Dugway that have had to address bad behavior. But again, I want to be clear that I think Andy's situation, it's a business, it's egregious, and I'm not suggesting in any way that I object to what Andy is trying to do here. But please be careful about the language so that a precedent is not set that would open the gates to losing even more parking area.
And I may, good. John Rankin, also on the Parking Advisory Committee, and again, just speaking as a resident, not as a committee member, that I'm going to agree with what Matt said, that it's best not to set a precedent, and that in 2023, when the Parking Advisory Committee was looking at this issue, and then changes were made by the select board along with input from the town staff, we looked at the entire Dugway Road as a whole, and with the number one goal of allowing emergency vehicles to get through, and that changes were made to have in the high use area just parking on the riverside of the road. And so I think that's the best way overall, is to look at neighborhoods or particular recreational issues together, and understanding this is an unusual situation, both for the severity that Andy's saying and the town's time commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I guess my big question is, what would a commitment from us look like to you, knowing that we can't just rate this?
Doesn't sound like I could get one that would satisfy me.
Oh, sorry, what was that, Andy?
It doesn't sound like I could get one that would satisfy me.
And what would it look like? What would one that would satify you look like?
Well,
tell you if we,
what I'm hearing is it's 50-50 that it could happen.
I wouldn't say 50-50.
I think there are two potential outcomes. I wouldn't say that it's equal chance that the two outcomes happen, but
that just doesn't, and with the past 10 years of history, it doesn't give me much faith.
It might be helpful to describe briefly the ordinance process and why that path is uncertain.
That's good. Good question. Yeah, Josh, can you give us a?
Yeah, so the way that would work is if the board said they wanted to go forward and move and change the ordinance, we would come back at a future meeting, potentially the next meeting, with suggested changes to that ordinance that would describe where additional no parking would go. Then the board at that point, if that all looked good to them and it was agreeable to everybody, the board would move forward and set a date for a hearing that would probably be about a month out in advance. So let's say early September, they want to set a hearing that's set for October. They come back in October, they hold the hearing, receive public feedback on the ordinance change. Then they vote on it, assuming they vote in the affirmative. There's a 60-day waiting period. So then I think it would be early October, November, so early December, it would go into effect. There is one legal way that it could be overturned if within 45 days of their decision at the hearing, a petition is brought to overturn that. And I think you need 2 or 5% of the voters to sign a petition to overturn it. At that point, it would go to the vote of the public, and then the public would vote on if they want to do the no parking or not. Just for some context, in my time here with various ordinance changes to traffic and other ordinances, I've seen one petition, and that was about the stop signs at the THBC intersection, which is very hotly debated and contested, lots of strong opinions on either side. I'm not hearing a ton of strong opinions on this one, really. I think that the chances of a petition is certainly less than 50-50, probably fairly low. But I think that's what Adam means by, they can't just wave a magic wand, make it happen right now, and make that permanent forever. There's a process by which the voters could overturn it. I think it's fairly unlikely, but that's what I think Adam's trying to say. We can't give you a 100% promise. Maybe we can give you a 95% promise, but they don't want to say it's 100% done, and then something happens and it's not done, and then they feel like they've walked away from their commitment.
I think the time constraint obviously plays in, because if we had a couple of years to figure this out, we could see that process through and know the outcome, right? And then we could figure out the easement after the fact. But for the timeline that we're on now, we would need to do, pencil and sign the easement in conjunction with that process. And so there seems to be a non-zero chance that we would get everything through.
I think that's on you, the town.
Okay.
For just disregarding my requests for years.
Right. Yes, I can't speak to that. First time I'm hearing this request, Andy, and I'm trying to take it seriously. So
You should have seen it. I've written it up. I delivered it to management, asked for it to be distributed to the selectmen multiple times in different years.
okay,
What more could I have done?
sure. So I guess, I mean, ultimately, if that's the constraint, I don't know what the path forward here is. Then you don't have any ideas?
I'm trying to assemble in my head who these 200 or 300 people who are going to write a petition to overturn this. I think,
And they'd have to be Richmond voters.
we're doing it in consideration of the to the extent of the abuse he's been through, and we're doing it mindful of the fact that we need some help from him in securing this longevity of that road. Those are good reasons for us to propose this change. I think it's important. It's been noted that we've got to be careful to not do this in a way that sets a precedent. But I think Mr. Gilroy, I think you've all made good points as to how we can make that case. Because I'd be prepared to, try to come up with that language. But I do think if we're going to do this, we need a proper map so that we can make it clear in the ordinance as it gets changed where this is happening.
Well, we could commit to the concept and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, well,
you just can't commit to the outcome. We can predict, but we can't commit.
Well, I think we've been forthright about that. I'm not going to try to make odds. I'm no good at that. I just think for the wheels to come off the bus, there'd have to be
it's a very low.
There'd have to be an organized group who really hates this idea, and I don't,
see that happening.
Well, they're not here tonight. They weren't here last meeting. I'm not afraid to stick my neck out a little bit on this and say we should do this, try this, try to see it through. The stop sign thing was a surprise, honestly. We were just trying to do something temporary to see if it worked, and boy, did we get it. But that's because there were people who were all over this issue. I'm not aware of a long history of people in opposition to what you're asking for. Maybe you've seen it. I'm too new on this board to have, but I just, I'm sympathetic to the landowner and the business owner here.
Yeah.
Greg, would you be willing to work with Andy to come up with a map? Or I guess Andy doesn't really need to be part of the map. We just need to get a brushed up map to bring back.
Yeah.
So we're talking about
I'd commit to that
amount of parking that's
I'd commit to that.
accurate.
He's walked me along the road and shown me where his trouble areas are. I think.
But don't forget, the public will adapt.
Right. In the end, I think we need some kind of memorandum of understanding between the town and the Aldridge family for the other matter at hand. Okay, let's bifurcate those issues for a moment and say we're going to deal with the parking issue and we're going to deal with the repair issue. You still have a big interest in making sure that there's access to both ends of Cochran's or Dugway Road. I don't know why I keep doing that tonight. We don't want that road to fail, and given the undermining that's happened, if we don't deal with it, we could find the rest of Dugway Road in the Huntington River.
When the gorge was sat there for years, that was detrimental to my finances.
So, given that a lot of the yellow zone, it's impossible to park anyway, are we really only talking about changing the southern yellow line to where Josh has marked off?
It's a little more nuanced than that. There's a few different parking areas that are viable and obvious, and they don't total a lot of spots, but they're.
If you go where the houses are, where the X's are,
well, if
some of the deeds say one thing for those properties, and some of the deeds say something else.
If their lots go to the river, though, then we really.
That's what I'm saying. Some say they do, and some
really can't be germane to what we're trying to do with you.
Yeah, and in that area, people do try to park. When you get to the western end, there's a whole stretch there where people do park. It's
closer to the Huntington Road.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And that's
in principle tonight. Can we agree to the yellow area to the left of the red area, north and south?
I mean, I think what I would really think Greg's committed to getting us a brushed up map that accurately reflects the viable parking areas that we would be eliminating.
Yeah, we're told it's somewhere around 5 parking spaces. I'd really like to know what those parking spaces are and put an X through each one. If that's the outcome we're after.
And then ordinance language is going to go from here to here.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Right.
Inclusive of those parking lots.
Yeah. We would need to be really clear that, it's from here to here and it's a net of 5 or 6 spaces, because I could see people looking at that and going, oh my God, they're taking 40 spaces away. No, but that's got to be clearly spelled out for the public hearing.
And supporting it by findings that make sure that it's an implicitly unique situation.
Yeah.
Chelsea?
Yeah, hi, thanks. I wrote in the chat, but I don't think y'all saw it. I was just wondering how much the grant money is for the Dugway Road repair and when the deadline is for this to be sort of collected.
Yeah, it's about a $1.2 million project. The grant ultimately between FEMA and Vermont Emergency Management cover around 95, 96% of that cost. And we really have to have the work in the river done by the end of December, which means we really have to get it going by September, or at least awarded
quite soon.
So
Sorry, can I say one other thing?
Go ahead, Chelsea.
So the reason I was asking about the financial sort of what's on the line here for the town, right, is like this is a very substantial grant. And obviously, I don't spend a lot of time on Dugway Road. However, obviously this resident has had these issues for many a year, and I feel as though I hear the lack of response, and I sort of understand the frustration there. And also the fact that sort of empty promises are just that, empty promises. And I would suggest potentially that the board make consideration to come to some sort of an agreement that you are going to pursue this traffic ordinance change to eliminate these parking spaces. And if the town does not follow through with that, there's some sort of financial compensation to this resident. I mean, there's many benefits, I think, to that. One, then this resident realizes the town has skin in the game and it's not an empty promise. 2, the other residents of the town recognize that if we don't do this, we're losing money either way. We're either going to lose the grant money or we're going to lose this whatever X amount of dollars that we've made an agreement with this resident. And I think, honestly, if we don't have something to back up, then it's just that it's going to be empty promises. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Just a quick add. I also met with Andy for a couple hours yesterday and did a walkabout up there today. Just in case the parking advisory committee was called in, I flagged the beginning and the end of each of both sides of the road with green flagging. So if somebody's driving by and you're trying to get a scope of what we're talking about, that's a pretty good indication. No guarantees, principal.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I'll go by there as long as the flagging is still there when I go by.
good luck, because you know what happens to the town signs out there. They end up in the river.
I think we're committed to pursuing this, Andy. We can make that commitment. Sounds like Greg's going to get us a more accurate map so we can figure out what we're up against and accurately talk about it next meeting, convey that to the public, and make a plan. That said, I think to hit the timeline with the grant funding, we would need to have an easement in place in parallel. I think I'm ready to make the commitment that we're going to aggressively pursue this and make it happen for you. But that said, that's not a finished ordinance. Or I guess is that something you would be able to work with, or are we still too far apart?
I'll take it into advisement. It's,
Okay.
we're starting to get
That's all I can ask, yeah.
beyond skills and knowledge, maybe.
We can certainly commit to everything we can do. We can't commit to the,
I think we're pretty close to being able to commit to the outcome, but we've had
Yeah.
one ordinance change that has made it clear that we can't always commit to that.
we can't commit to the outcome of the variables that are beyond our control.
I don't want to just lose sight of what Chelsea brought up, which frankly I had not thought of before. And I've mostly dealt with public sector contracts, which frankly don't usually have this kind of thing. But I'm sure there's precedent in private sector contracts that if you don't follow through with your obligation, you pay me X. So I was one member of the board. I'm not averse to considering.
Yeah, that's,
I don't know
no
how we do
objection
it,
to
but
that.
Well, I think also thinking about it, I think this is part of Chelsea's point too, is even if it got overturned by a petition, that would kick in.
right.
Or if it
Andy's
got,
not.
what's that?
There's some disincentive for the town to just overturn it.
Right.
On principle.
And then-
Financial
Yeah, and
incentive for Andy, disincentive.
By town, you mean the voters.
yeah, and the other possible way it could be overturned is if a future select board 5 years from now says, no, we're gonna change it back. But if that lasted in perpetuity with the life of the land, that
Yeah.
future select board will go, oh, we have to
Yeah.
pay what to change it back? No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So there's maybe think about, maybe both sides, think about what that number
Yeah.
would be. And then we would, I think, have to formalize that in some sort of an agreement. And maybe that's something, I'd be willing to meet with you and Mr. Aldrich to try to figure that out. And then we could, talk to the attorney about how would we legally set that up so we come back at the next meeting at least a little prepared with feedback from you and your family and some feedback from Greg. No, you don't have to make a decision right now, but I know you have other family members involved in the property as well. You were consultants.
I would have rather not been here tonight. I lost a family member over the weekend. So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
and, I'm not available to him right now. I tried to get a surrogate to come here for me, but I wasn't able to.
Thank you for coming. Oh, go ahead.
Would it be helpful to have Pete chime in on the map and show where he's intending to put guardrails?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I think if we can tag up, once we get a map with showing parking spaces, we'll get that on there. That'd be great.
Mitigate some of the concern of the park.
Yeah.
Well, I think, so Pete's plan for guardrails is usually to replace ones that are already in place and failing.
Yes.
And then and then if there's new ones, it's more steep slopes. I'm not sure that any of these parking spots have a lot of steep slopes, and I don't think he would put them right next to the road to eliminate the open right of way. I think if directed by the select board, he would put the guardrail in. I did talk to him about it a little bit. It would present some plowing issues. If he had guardrails too close, where he has room to store some snow right now in the winter, it would be some challenges plowing wise.
So it strikes me, it's probably a compromise. It's not right next to the traveled portion. It might be somewhere between
Less
the
than
right of
car
way.
width.
Yeah, exactly. Enough
Half
to
a
take
car
away the parking.
Yeah.
That's a good way. You can have a little storage. Maybe there's
Like a motorcycle parking issue.
Yeah, and I guess, we could talk it through with Pete more, but that might be a way to eliminate the parking without an ordinance change.
Yeah, let's put the guardrails in.
Just if you put the guardrails halfway up, that way there's still snow storage, but the guardrails are there so that no one can park there, and they would get a ticket because they'd be on the traveled portion of the right of way.
Yeah. Could we explore that between now and the next meeting? Because Andy's looking for hopefully something that's a firmer commitment.
Yeah, that's something.
If we have the authority to do that and put it close enough to the road to take away the parking, I think it's got to be the guardrails, because there are a whole bunch of other things the town doesn't want to put in the traveled portion or the right of way or the shoulder.
Or drainage ditches, or, there's more than one
Well,
way.
there used to be a ditch there,
Yeah.
and that didn't work.
But arguably,
So
there
we
could be
could-
guardrails there anyway.
Well, on some sides, not the other. Other sides are next to a field, so. But I think we could get a cost. If we get a number of feet of guardrail, Pete could probably give us a pretty good cost of that. And I know, actually, when I was on the select board in Bolton years ago, we put up guardrails by the puddles. because there was so many people parking there that the only way to actually stop them, put the guardrails up.
And really, the only place that we might have to put the guardrails in terms of the parking issue is the small number of parking spots. It doesn't have to be everywhere.
Right.
It's parking spots and then a little.
Because everywhere else, they'd be in the right of way of the travel portion anyway. So that might be a very quick and easy commit.
So if we pursue that independently, that would be the only fast track that we've come up with.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay.
Next, we have discussion of Vermont Police Academy Criminal Justice Council's review of the Richmond Fair and Impartial Policing Policy and their conclusion that the policy is not compliant with the statewide model FIP policy. Just want to give us some. We have
Chief, do you have Chief Cohen here? I will defer to Chief Cohen on this. He can probably explain it far better than I.
Cell phone. Oh, I have to watch that.
All right.
Chief, you either have a really, really nice garage or that is a very nice background.
I had to throw it up so you don't see the mess of what's behind me. So the short version of this is the history of the fair and impartial policing policy, and the select board had change from the model policy that came forward in 2024. And we had made adjustments, the town of Richmond made adjustments to the model policy with the advisement from Richmond Racial Equity and Migrant Justice. That policy had gone back and forth a few times through the powers that be down at the academy level, and an agreement had been put forth for a policy that we put down to the academy in February 2025. When the academy did their review of all of our policies again this year, they found that our policy was not within the model policy, and New Eyes looked at it, said that we are no longer in compliance, even when we had gone back and forth a few times, and stated a number of issues to the policy we had put in place, and said it was non-compliance, and told us that we had to follow the state mandated policy. There's a number of different issues that came up with this. I went back and forth with the academy and had a meeting with the Attorney General's office to discuss what these changes were and how it really affected us as a community and as a department. And I was very politely told that we have a model policy. There's a law in place in Vermont that says if there is a model policy, all departments must follow that model policy. We are allowed to adjust a model policy, but we can't eliminate any pieces to the model policy. So if a policy says law enforcement is not able to do X, whatever X is, we have to make sure we have that language still in our policy, and we can't be less restrictive than X. But we can be sometimes more restrictive. But the same goes the other way. If the policy says an officer can do something, we can't be less restrictive than that the model policy. So in this case, some of the language that was removed from the model policy to the policy we had put in place in 2025 had to deal with what officers were able to communicate or not communicate with federal agents based on federal laws. And so once those federal laws came into place, it basically the policy we put down in 2025 was no longer a valid policy. And then they subtly threatened that if we didn't follow the model policy and put the model policy back in place, that the department itself could be discredited, meaning that we would have no longer law enforcement powers in the state of Vermont. And that the town, when we sign our any and all federal grants, one of the fine print in there says we will follow all federal laws and obey all federal laws. And so if we were not obeying federal laws knowingly, we accepted federal funding, not just the department, but townwide, then the AGO's office would look at it as a fraud issue and would potentially come after the town for fraud. So this is like accepting any sort of federal funds, any grants, FEMA money, the highway money, all that. So at the conclusion of that meeting, based on everything that was discussed, I made the determination to work for the best interest of the town at large first and put back in place the model policy, the fair and impartial policing policy, and give you guys the update of this is what's happened. And then if we want to move forward with any changes to that policy, I would suggest we come up with a joint meeting between the AGO's office and ourselves to come up with what changes we want to make and how they affect us in law enforcement.
Question. So who's this group that's telling us that if we don't do it the way they want to, they're going to take our federal money away from us?
So that's the Attorney General's office.
State?
Yes.
So why is the state so hell-bent on enforcing federal law?
Yeah, because
that part I am not aware of.
I mean, they're getting it shoved down their throat, for lack of a better term, as well.
They might be. The Attorney General who was assisting with this was Julio Thompson, and Julio has been part of the fair and impartial policing policy since 2011. So he is well versed in all the different forms that the policy has taken over the years and the history behind it.
That also implies that this wasn't a change of leadership that led to a knee-jerk change as well. There was some reason behind it, for better or worse.
Came from top down.
Pardon? I was only going to observe, I think the authority derives from the Criminal Justice Council.
Yes.
Which has statutory authority about a bunch of things. So it's not just an attorney saying something, it's an attorney interpreting federal law under the parameters of the Criminal Justice Council. And I will admit, I can't adequately define the authority and role of the Criminal Justice Council, but my memory is it is significant, is it not, Chief Cohn?
It is. So they're the underlying authority for all of our law enforcement accreditation. And basically, if we're not accredited as a agency or an officer, then we don't have the authority under state law to enforce the law.
Good.
But don't we want the police department of Richmond to enforce the laws? Isn't that the job of having a police department, is to enforce the laws and then let Sarah George let them go? Or excuse me, I mean, then let it go from there?
Yes.
I mean, you do want a police department that's going to keep us safe, not worry about, all this Chittenden County or the state of Vermont, or we want a police department that's going to watch out for Richmond residents.
I mean, I don't think there's any action required right now, right? We're under the model policy. That policy.
Yeah. So I made the decision at the end, the conclusion of that meeting, to put our the model policy back in place, both to protect the department and the town from any liabilities that might have arisen from a out of date or out of compliance policy.
I think that model policy and our policy agree in the vast majority of situations. In all but like one or two spots, they're basically identical. Yeah. So this isn't a massive in a lot of ways.
And ultimately on our day-to-day, it's not changing the department's actions. We're still going to enforce the laws. We're still going to make sure we're enforcing the law fairly across the board. And we're not enforcing civil immigration. I mean, that's a short version. The policy itself has a whole bunch of nuance inside it, where there are some times where there's people who can make arrest, not make arrest, etc. But it's the short version is the differences between the two policies are minimal.
Chief, this is not controlling, but I think is perhaps relevant and of interest. Do you have a sense of how many police departments in the state have simply adopted the model policy?
It's a vast majority. I only know a handful, maybe, that have adopted something other than the model policy.
Thank you. Connie?
Hi there. My name's Connie Vanagan. I'm a resident of Richmond. I'm also a member of the Richmond Racial Equity Group. This group has been part of developing and adopting different versions of the fair and impartial policing policy. And first of all, I commend Chief Cohen for protecting the interests of the town and the department. That seems like a very reasonable course of action. But a policy is a policy until you change it. And what I'd like to suggest to the board, and especially to Chief Cohen, is that we, again, work together on understanding what we can adjust in the policy, and to include migrant justice in that, as they have some well-informed advisors on the FIPP. And I'd like to do it soon so that we can, not let this languish, but come back and say together, here's what we think we can do or what we can't do, just to give us an opportunity to look and think about it together. So that's a request that members of the Richmond Racial Equity Group are interested in. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Connie.
I agree that if we want to, and I would put it more towards the will of the select board at the moment, if we want to go down that path, just because of the potential implications to federal funding and or accreditation. But if we do want to go down that path, to have the meetings, go through the process of seeing what changes in the policy we can, but not put it into place until we have an agreement from both the AGO's office and the academy before we put a policy like that, any changes to the policy in place.
Yeah, it's a very reasonable process. What does the select board need to do to here? I guess I'm not really clear on.
Well, the issues are laid out really clearly in Christopher Burkett's letter.
Yeah.
And he sort of spells out where we're at odds with the policy. We're going to have to go through these one at a time and talk about them, I think. Following along with Mrs. Van Egan's suggestion that we involve stakeholders, but we have a roadmap here. I don't think we want to do it in the context of this meeting, but.
And to say, to back up what Connie said, I think that the last few times we've looked at this policy, I found it helpful. I think the board found it helpful to get some feedback from Richmond Racial Equity and Migrant Justice. They usually had some key points that they zeroed in on, and that helped kind of focus the conversation for the select board and for the police chief. And then through that process, the board was able to say, yeah, these are what's really important to us. It's what's important to the community. And then we engage in the conversation that Chief is talking about with the Criminal Justice Council. But I think Connie and the people she'll reach out to, I think they'll provide a lot of good and valuable insight to the board.
So we'll follow up at a future meeting and dedicate some more time to it.
So if we close it by saying in the interim, as we've already discussed, we take the model policy and follow that, then work on an alternative, get sort of prior approval from the Attorney General and the council before we attempt to implement it. I'm going to observe that might take a while with the back and forth.
Yeah. Some of these are just structural, sort of compliance issues, which really aren't controversial. I think the ones where we need to exercise additional effort are those that sort of speak to issues of racial equality, civil justice, those very pointed parts of the
Yeah. Good. So I don't think we necessarily have to fight for each one of these enumerated changes, but there are some that I think are worth putting some extra effort into.
Yeah.
Great. So
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Connie.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Seems like the beginning of a long conversation to come. Next, we have discussion of discontinuing legal trail number 2. So this is follow-up, a continuation of a previous agenda item.
This is the Dugway Road issue.
This is the Dugway Road access permit.
I have to recuse myself from this issue. Thank you.
So at the previous meeting, we had approved the execution of an access permit.
License agreement.
I guess, was that the correct wording?
Yeah, license agreement called out for a driveway to go on legal trail number 2.
It was a former class 4 road that was downgraded sometime in the 2000s to a legal trail. There was access to 2 lots up there, passing through another lot. We approved an engineering plan to upgrade that and grade it up to driveway standard for the development of a lot up there. The next part of the process, the landowner could have chosen to pursue and did, I think, verbally request to pursue was, throwing up the legal trail number 2. So the town giving up our rights to the road as a legal trail. Do you want to give us some more? I mean, I don't know. What are the important parts to talk about here?
Yeah.
There's a specific process, which I think is less important than talking about the town's history with the class 4 road, now legal trail, and what it accesses.
Yeah, so I think that is part of it. So it used to be a class 4 road. It was downgraded, like you said, early 2000s to legal trail. Right now on the map, you can see that it comes off of Dugway Road, right, sort of east of the Huntington Gorge. It heads up to 2 properties now that are recently subdivided, owned by Chiarelli and Rabideau. It passes over land owned by Rosen. So it really is sort of a road to nowhere at that point, other than private property. That's where the board at the last meeting was comfortable moving forward with a license agreement, which we're still working on drafting based on the recent sale of land. Hope to have that in place shortly to allow the development of the driveway to move forward. The request from Nick Chiarelli at the last meeting was to enter into the process to start to consider to discontinue the road. And there it does become a bit process driven. So there's 2 ways to start the process. Well, 3 ways. You can have a petition, which doesn't seem to be likely in this case. You can have the landowners formally requesting to hold a discontinuation process, or the select board could voluntarily say, yeah, we want to do that. We want to move forward and discontinue it. So the first question is, does the board want to move forward and discontinue it? And then if so, I was just refamiliarizing myself with the statute. The last one I was involved with on a discontinuation was about 4 years ago or so, which is Williams Hill Road. There was quite a lot of information about that one, so I don't think this will be as involved. But I would want to make sure that I've got the process laid out correctly. I would double check with our attorney just to make sure that there's a lot of proper notices that you have to do. There's a site inspection, there's possibly a survey. So it's a little bit out of the normal sort of blocking and tackling from my position. So I would take some time to get that in order and then come back to the board with sort of a roadmap of when the next hearing would be, when we would schedule that, how we would have to warn that, so that all the details are ready to go and we can kind of put the plan into action. So I think the first question is, do you want to start the process with or without a letter from the landowners? If you want to say we're ready to go without a letter, then I'll start doing the research to get this together so we can start the process going for them.
I think it's based on our last meeting, and I forget the exact wording, but I think it's clear if we have not received a letter, if we make that a requirement to start the process, we will promptly receive a letter. So I don't really see the merit in kicking it down the road for 1 or 2 meetings just to make Mr. Chiarelli write a letter in requesting us restart the process.
Okay.
So I think it would be worthwhile to start. I speak only for myself.
Since you guys are.
Hi, me again, Mary Hole. I think it's imperative for the board to make a decision about these roads and paths to nowhere. we've acquired a 428 acre town forest, and I think most of the traffic that is generated for these paths to nowhere should actually be directed to town-owned land. This is not town-owned land. If you do not consider throwing up the trail as happened whenever it happened before for the road, can Richmond reserve the rights on Mary Drive that you guys might be conveying this evening to also be considered a legal trail? Because essentially that's what happened. The property when it was owned by, let's see, the Noels and then Dr. Paquette and now the Rosens, and the sale of the property to the two folks who currently are hopefully considering building huge properties up there. You really need to consider backing out of all these that we no longer have ownership under. You don't need to be concerned about maintaining it. You don't have to be concerned about liability. If you give up all of the legal trails, essentially that are trails to nowhere, I think that's not a bad thing. You know, the path beside my house will be extinguished because there's a limit to it. That too is not town land. But when I go to the trails meeting this next week, all these trails that are not on town land still seek money for funding. So if this is exhausted or given up, thrown up as a legal trail, you don't have to put another dime into it. It's going to be the responsibility and hopefully the perfect outcome that the owners of the property of the road will own it, and they can restrict access and put a log across it if they so choose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Pardon, David, do you have any thoughts, questions? No.
No, I'll say the last legal trail experience was
left a bad taste.
Yeah, less than ideal.
We don't want that.
And I am inclined, I'm not sure I want to like carte blanche, like discontinue every legal trail as a fiat. I think we want to be specific about where are they, what are they? And I'm not unwilling to do that, but I think it would be, it would require that detail.
Yeah.
But this one, I am comfortable discontinuing it as we've discussed previously.
Great. All right, I'll come back with some outlines on the process, and there'll probably end up being a special select board meeting since there has to be a site visit prior and then the actual meeting. But we'll figure out time to do that.
Great. Can we
Wear your hiking shoes, kids.
can we get someone to brush hog it? It's a lot of blackberries up there.
Well,
You just buy a
presumably by the time we're going to be up there looking at it, there's
snow.
started. Well, we'll see.
Oh, they're
Hopefully,
starting construction.
they're starting construction fairly soon, ideally. So, yeah, hopefully we can get this done in the autumn as far as the site visit. You know, it's going to take a little bit of time to get it warned, but we'll get it going as fast as we can.
Great. Mary?
Yeah. Just as it relates to Andy Aldrich, when he has issues with folks that are essentially trespassing on his property, I think it's important to note that when somebody can abuse the land and nobody's watching, they just might do it. And I've been very successful in chasing people off my property, and heaven help the person that shows up there without permission, because I do not suffer fools well. I do not suffer fools well. I chased off somebody who's a lawyer for the land trust, which I was very happy to do. But just the idea that they have the audacity to think that they have rights to park on your property and trails to nowhere, especially with folks that might have little kids up there. The gentleman that was here last week spoke about that. If his wife and child are up there, and a trail to nowhere could lead to trouble. So it could be a trail to trouble. So I would encourage you as you go forward, just like we had this ancient roads discussion a number of years back, all the ancient roads were thrown up. First one they found was, of course, on my land, but all the ancient roads were thrown up. And I think it's not unreasonable to consider extinguishing all the trails that are legal trails, which we do not have ownership to. Thank you.
You're Nick?
Yeah, hi guys. It's Nick Chiarelli, and thank you, Mary. It is concerning hearing Andy Aldrich and other Dugway landowners speak. I drive down Dugway all the time now. I'm always going up there and getting ready for the projects at hand, and people are parked in the road, blocking the road. There's signs everywhere. Haven't seen one tow truck. I mean, one of my questions is what is the process to get somebody towed? Is it as easy as calling a number and a tow truck comes? I'm very curious about that.
I've had a conversation with an officer who said they have towed a bunch of vehicles. I don't know the number.
Yeah, I know that. So to answer your question, Nick, we talked a lot about parking enforcement out this time last year as we were getting ready for next summer. And we looked at a few different ways for towing. We were at one point considering allowing tow companies to come up and tow on their own without having an officer there, because one of the limitations is you need an officer there to make a determination that the car is parked illegally and illegally enough that it warrants towing, not just a ticket. We decided not to authorize tow companies because they would have a vested interest and there'd be a bit of a conflict of interest of them just towing cars. So right now our officers and the constable are up there fairly often. I think they've written probably close to 300 tickets at this point. I'm not sure how many cars they've towed, but they're definitely doing a lot of parking enforcement right now. And I know we're going to probably come back here in October, hopefully with an update and a recap to the select board of how it went this summer and maybe some suggestions for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the tickets are easy to write. I see over $100,000 cars parked on there, blocking the road. Nobody cares about a parking permit or a parking ticket. Sorry. I think the only way to make people do the right thing is to show that you are going to do the right thing and tow people. It's dangerous. You're driving down a windy road. You can't see around the corner. I've been driving for a while, but when my 14-year-old turns 15 soon, she's going to be driving down that road. And it's very concerning. There's cars coming the other way from out of town that drive way too fast. And there's not enough room. There's hardly enough room for one car to pass when somebody's in that road with their rear end of their Jeep sticking out way too far. It needs to be handled. And I'm completely on Andy Aldrich's side, and I feel for him. I don't have any experience firsthand yet. But
we're getting a little away from the agenda items. I do appreciate your input, and we're going to bring up the parking issue again, probably again.
Well, the legal trail issue is relevant because it's going to look like a nice place to park when it's a nice driveway, and it's going to become our issue very quickly. People park wherever they see a spot. Right now, it's a farm road that a Honda Civic can't get up. You have to have a truck or a Jeep or something, and you still can't really see it from the road. So when it's a nice road, a 15-foot wide road that's graded, people are going to see it. So if it's our private road, we have the ability to keep people off of it. That's my point, and that's why it is relevant.
All right, thank you. So next we have discussion of request for a waiver. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong item. I approve. All right, apologize. Next we have consideration of approving an amount for a surety to include in the license agreement to develop driveway on legal trail number 2. So at the last meeting, we approved the development of the license agreement and the writing of that, and then we authorized Josh to sign the license agreement. One thing that has come up is, I don't know how this came up, but I think
the attorney asked, what would you like to set for the surety?
And so this is pretty standard in a lot of different types of projects. I guess I hadn't really seen it on a residential project, but I think it does make sense. I don't know. It's tough when overlaid with the idea that we're going to get rid of the legal trail status, but I'm assured it would be some form of assurance that there would be funds available to restore the trail to semblance of its earlier condition if the construction were to fall through at any given point. So I guess it hadn't occurred to me to set this. I'm not entirely sure we need to, but what are your guys' thoughts? I've seen this on large commercial projects where we have, blasting, for example, and what you would do is putting aside enough money that you would be able to restore the blast rock and cover it in topsoil and make something resembling forest again.
And typically if I can construe where the construction has been disruptive.
Right.
Like, which may not apply here. A question, have we done, in terms of precedent, have we done this before? Has it come up before?
Not in my memory.
Yeah, I can't remember a similar situation with a driveway on a legal trail for an improvement to a town-owned trail like this.
I can see this
Wasn't
being
there
much-
another one off Dugway? That
I thought it was Oldfield Road.
Right, Oldfield, which I think is actually just, I think it's this one here poking out at the bottom. Yeah. And what did we do with that one? I don't remember. I'd have to look back and see what we did there, but I don't recall a full license agreement like this.
I think the part that makes me hesitant to impose anything is the fact that we just talked about opening up starting the process to discontinue this legal trail. And so if this was a trail that had a use the town currently used, when we wanted to restore that use, if the construction wasn't completed, that would be obvious. But I think the vast majority of people in town didn't know this existed, and there's a good chance it will not exist as a town right of way in the somewhat near future. And so there's not a use that we would be ensuring. Again, so I'm not seeing it.
Right.
I saw someone had their hand up, but it
was up and Chelsea was up. They both pulled down.
Okay.
If that's what you guys want to do, I'll tell the attorney to just strike the surety section.
I think that I would be comfortable with that. I don't know what the rest of the board would.
If we're going to discontinue the legal trail and it's on private property anyway, I'm struck. What is our financial interest there?
What use or what restoration are we actually ensuring with the surety bond?
Looking at it in the rearview mirror as we're speeding away.
And the protections in place would be essentially zoning and permitting, right?
Yeah.
You can't just go bulldoze
I mean, you wouldn't receive a certificate of occupancy or something along those lines, which would be. Yeah, I'm comfortable striking that section.
Will do. Thanks, guys.
All right. Next, we have discussion of a request for a waiver from V-Trans A76 standards for the development of town-owned strip of land off of Mary Drive to rural road standards and discussion of updated offer for the conveyance of the same strip of land. David, are you taking a break? Or are you just running to the bathroom? Oh, you're not recusing yourself. I heard you say something.
Waited till they came back.
Oh, we maintained a quorum. Yeah. Josh, do you want to give us a kind of quick, give the public, we have held the documents, but I think it's worth a quick update.
Yeah, so we've obviously been talking about this for a number of years. The most recent discussions were around stormwater management as well as the development of Mary Drive to a rural road standards for a portion of the way and to a driveway, and how that would intersect with the road maintenance agreement that the select board was looking for it to make sure that there was agreement between property owners with existing access and with Danny Pete, who's proposing to develop the lot at the end of the road, that there would be a way to maintain the road. That agreement referenced a driveway plan that turns out was not actually compliant with the A76 standards. So it looks like Danny Pete is looking for two paths forward, potentially one being getting a waiver, which would actually have to come from the DRB to not comply with the A76 standards. And I understand he just at the end of last week submitted another plan to show how it could possibly comply with A76 standards. The issue of the waiver is interesting because typically the select board would not be involved in that type of waiver if this was totally private land. And there was no town ownership at this point. That request, those plans would go to the DRB. The DRB would then look at granting the waiver or not. If they granted the waiver, then it would move forward with no input from the select board. Sort of the interest here from the select board is that it is on town-owned land at this point. There's been conversations, obviously, about conveying it. And there's been a lot of interest in ensuring that the existing property owners that have access from this are in agreement with the plan for the road and the road maintenance agreement. So one possible path forward for the select board is to say, okay, we will agree to convey this land with the following.
There's three we talked about.
There it is. Sorry, with the following stipulations. One being that you get receipt of approval amendments to Sadler Meadow subdivision, which allows for lot 12 to be developed. This is the lot at the end of the road. you would get the receipt of DRB approval from the Rural Road for the design for Mary Drive subdivision amendment, which may or may not include a waiver and adherence to A76 standards, but as long as there's that agreement from or approval from DRB, that could satisfy one box for the select board. And then the third would be a signed road maintenance agreement between Danny Pete and the existing property owners that they agree with the design of the road and the road maintenance of the road. Hopefully that didn't muddy it too much. I tried to lay it out as far as like your next steps, and then I don't know if Danny wants to add anything. I'm sort of taking it in two steps. That's
the one thing I was at. Josh and I talked about this a bunch, and I think the conclusion we both came to is for the first two plans submitted, one would require a waiver. Generally, that would be from the DRB. One, I think the goal is there's a new plan submitted that would ideally not require a waiver. We didn't think it was reasonable for the select board to weigh in on that. That seems like more of a DRB decision. We would defer to their expertise, and whatever they chose to approve, we would ultimately back. But the three conditions that came out of that seemed necessary to ensure that the whole process could go smoothly, and the right approvals were in place to ensure that the development was done in compliance with laws and the neighbors were considered.
Yeah, the waiver, just the waiver things, when the waiver piece is confusing to me, but I understand what you just said, your requirements, and then have DRB look into these waivers. And so that makes sense to me.
Wouldn't they also, Adam, actually approve the waivers?
I mean, the DRB.
Yeah.
I think there's two plans submitted, and one may require a waiver, or one wouldn't. So I think that would be kind of up to Danny and the DRB to decide which plan they're going to go with. But as long as there was, what we would require is the receipt of approval of a plan, whether it's approval with a waiver or approval without a waiver, wouldn't matter to us as long as the DRB approved a plan.
And the idea is the DRB has the time and expertise to consider the implications of a waiver in terms of, is that going to disrupt stormwater? Is that going to represent a safety hazard? Whatever implications.
Yeah, there's much more. They're specifically appointed to review technical aspects of development projects, and don't think we are.
There's a second waiver that's not on the town property, Lot K. It's up higher on the driveway.
I think that speaks to the part that if we didn't own this Lot K, this waiver wouldn't have come in front of us either. It would have gone just to the DRB, right?
First waiver would only go to the DRB. So the waiver for the rural road standards, I think you're talking about the Hammerhead turnaround.
Hammerhead versus
it's not on town-owned land, so it just goes to the DRB.
Except for with the Hammerhead turnaround, oddly, that is in the zoning regulations that comes back to the select board. That is one zoning waiver that the board has authority over rather than the DRB. So
can we delegate that to the board or to their board?
I think only if you change the zoning regulations, perhaps. But at this point, that would come back to this board to look at the Hammerhead. So I didn't include that in this part of the conversation, knowing that that's going to come back to you guys in the future once he goes to the DRB.
Here's some dad.
Hey, just to go over the series of events. So one of the neighbors of the house is up there. Is that?
Can you state your name?
Oh, sorry, Pete O'Neill, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Pete.
Does that agreement need to happen before it goes to the DRB or after?
The way this is written, it could happen before or after, but the conveyance of the property and the rights to upgrade the road wouldn't be able to happen until that maintenance agreement was in place. From our perspective, I think it's a DRB requirement that would have to be in place before they would consider granting the approval. Right? The DRB would want to see that maintenance agreement in place.
I can't speak for the DRB.
Generally speaking, though, that's one of the things that they review. So I think that would be either way, the road couldn't be upgraded. There would be a requirement that would have to be in place on our end for the road to be upgraded. And I imagine the DRB, generally speaking, would also put the same requirement in place. So even if they chose not to, that requirement would still be there for our approval.
does create a kind of cyclical thing because we have to agree to maintain something where the plans are final. There are a couple different options. So
I mean, I think what I would expect would be, you would be signing off on the approval of a plan. And if that plan were not approved by the DRB, that would require the process to be, you would have to re-sign off on an alternative plan if it was presented to you to meet the requirements that the DRB expressed need to be changed. So I think if Danny comes with a plan that he wants to submit and all the property owners agree to that and it goes in front of the DRB and they approve it, great. And if they say, no, this plan needs to be modified, you would need to make those modifications, get your approval again based on the new modified plan and then resubmit it. So there shouldn't be a situation, there won't be a situation in which you would approve a maintenance agreement and then the plans would change and then be built.
yeah, and there's that end, and then there's also like they change the plans, it comes back, we approve it, then they change something else.
There's a lot of layers. Yeah.
It is the onion of
Onion's better. Yeah. Ash?
Hey, Ash Kreider, I'm also one of the residents on the road. I'm sorry, just pardon my ignorance, but I'm trying to understand the requirement for the sloping. Is this like a new requirement or a specific Richmond thing? Well, I guess I don't understand why this wasn't on the plans originally.
This is a Richmond requirement, but it's based on ASHTO, I believe. I believe it's based on highway V-Trans. But with that, I would add that the DRB can require a technical review. So just keep that in your back pocket also, Ash. But it is a town requirement. Short and sweet answer is yes, it's a town requirement.
Okay, and then I guess the question is why wasn't it picked up in the original plans?
I can't answer that question. I would say that would be reviewed at the DRB's level typically.
Well, I guess
my question.
Go ahead, Ash.
Yeah, I guess my question was for Danny. I mean, weren't the engineers designing to, I guess, whatever standards and codes are statutory?
My hearing isn't the best, so I didn't speak a little louder.
Sure. I don't understand why the engineers weren't designing to the codes that were statutory. If this isn't a new requirement.
I'm learning in this process too. So, I don't know. I can't give you a good answer why the engineers proposed something that wasn't A676 standards to begin with or to start out with. But they've got a lot of experience. So they saw steps ahead of me. So I don't know. But I know that we've got two profiles here. One that meets A76 standards is called the A76 alternative. And then the one my engineer, Graham, wrote or drew or designed is the one that we've been looking at from day one. So, that's what's on the table now. So, I could say a lot of things about, I like what Graham, my engineer, has done. I think it's the best profile and plan for the project.
Sure. But, and for the record, I like the plan we've been talking about better as well. My concern is just what else got missed.
Well, we got to go through DRB and everything will get overturned or, put on the table. So this is a process and we aren't even halfway through it. So I think at the end, like Adam says, we're going to have a final that everybody likes before we sign that road maintenance. And then also and I know you guys know this, Lot 12 is responsible for maintaining this new rural road. And Lot 12, to be honest with all you guys, is going to own Lot K if it ever does get transferred to me. This new lot's going to own the road that you guys use. So they're going to want to maintain it. They're going to need to maintain it. They're going to have to maintain it. And they're going to want to again, because they're going to use it and they're going to live on it. So I'm going to, in the DRB, I am going to push forward the plan, the profile that we've had from day one. And I don't like what 876 does to your road. It digs deep into it and then it makes it steeper. It doesn't make sense to me. I know we can build that first 240 feet and there will be no water running across the cul-de-sac on Mary Drive, which has been an issue in the past. We're going to create ditches and swales on the eastern side, and all the driveway water from Ash and Connie and the driveway that comes down from the top will enter a swale at the beginning of that rural road. And then the rural road that we're proposing, that we proposed right along, is going to be crowned, and he calls it super elevated, where water is going to find that same swale, and there's going to be no water running across Mary Drive. And that's got to be maintained over the years. And it's going to be maintained by Lot 12.
Chelsea?
Hi, thanks. I don't know if you saw the chat. I was just asking if Watershed had looked at the plans for handling the water that would be part of the Mary Drive stormwater permit, as Andres had suggested. I know that the response back from the state was, as I had said late last year, it would be that it would either be part of Mary Drive's permit or on its own permit. And it appears they're wanting to go under the Mary Drive umbrella because of the buffer up to the 2.5 acres permitted, which Andres said could be viable. But the suggestion from him also was that he look at what are their plans for handling this water so that the town's interests are also protected. So I just wanted to ask if that had been done, and perhaps if the select board would want that to be a condition of approval, that make sure Andres takes a look at that. Thanks.
Yeah, so I know we provided them with the plans after he saw the email back from Terry from the state. I don't think we've gotten feedback from Andres on the plans just yet, as far as how that would work. With the rules. Well, provided them with the plans that we've been looking at for several months, yes. Right? I don't think we've gotten feedback from Andres on how that would interact with the new permit as far as if there's even an amendment. So yeah, so Chelsea, we did give them to Andres. We'll have him, I'll ping him again to see if he's got any feedback. I think his initial reading of Terry's email and the plans were that it would probably fit within the current permit without a need for amendment, but I'll double check on that to be sure that we're not going to increase the impervious by so much or in such a way that we need an amendment.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Just to be clear, it wasn't, I understand there's not going to be an amendment needed if they stay under the 2.5 acres. It was more so the treatment practices for the water is what I was referring to, but I'm sure Andres will chime in. Thank you.
I think right. I just want to make sure I understand. Like, my understanding is that even if you're under the permitted acreage, if it adds something that is so unique and has such a different drainage quality that you have to account for that differently than the existing permit, then you might need an amendment.
Exactly.
And that's where Andres needs to look at that to let us know what he thinks. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yes. And like I said, I think from his original email correspondence, I got the impression that he was saying just in general to look at what their plans are for the water management to ensure, like I said, the town's best interest, because as Danny's saying, his engineer is planning for the water not to go down across the cul-de-sac. And obviously if it did, that would be not in the town's best interest. So that's what I was referring to, like kind of just overall, like giving his like thumbs up on the overall all plan. That's all.
All right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So what would the board like to do?
One last thing on this one.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if there's any precedent, but I was wondering, I know the hammerhead turnaround, right? So it can't be a blockade, there's not enough room for both like the placement of it and the size of it. Is there any precedent? Maybe it's a good question for you of how that's been attached to roads in the past. Like, has that sort of thing gone through, or is it?
Yes, it has.
Okay, cool.
Yes, it has.
Okay.
There's one at the end of Church Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of waivers for moving that hammerhead be approved because of these extenuating circumstances.
I think we've dealt with a couple, at least one recently. We moved one twice due to wetlands and stuff like that. So
You have to have good reason, for sure. Why it goes to the select board is beyond me.
yeah, but you can't usually move them arbitrarily, but if there's a site constraint, such a wetland, or in this case, I guess a conservation easement, that would be a reasonable reason to do it. What would the board like to do? I don't know. It sounds like we're gonna, I guess my takeaway would be that we want to wait for Andres' review quick to make sure there's no major implications to stormwater.
Yeah. Yeah, we're free and clear of the 3-acre rule, obviously. So I think it sounds like we need to remand this to the DRB anyhow, like you started your comments with.
Yeah.
And that's where the work needs to happen.
Will the DRB need to see our commitment in order to approve? Do we need to make a commitment to resolving this?
Yeah, I think for clarity and openness, yes.
So we would need to make our commitment and approval with conditions possibly before the DRB could review it on their end and come to it.
Yeah, and I think as the landowner, you have to sign the application to the DRB still too. So a couple checks and balances there to make sure that the board is signed off on it. But yeah, good questions because there's a lot of moving parts at play here. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so I guess
who's Andres? Just curious.
He's the engineer at Watershed Consulting that's been consulting with us on a number of stormwater permits. And he did the most recent renewal of the Mary Drive stormwater permit.
Gotcha.
I guess the other piece of this would be that the compensation that we had discussed, Danny has made the offer to cover attorney's fees and $5,000. He had earmarked that $5,000 for upgrades at Browns Court ball fields. Field, sorry.
Yeah.
There's one. I don't think $5,000 gets us 2 ball fields, does it?
It doesn't really get you one.
Doesn't really get us one.
But it goes, so, like I said, the board has already set aside some money from the Special Projects Reserve Fund to go towards renovation of that field. And
we do.
We're behind in getting the RFP up. We got to get the RFP up. When I looked at this a couple of years ago, to kind of renovate one ball field was like $20,000 to $30,000 to like strip it down, rebuild it back up, do clay, do sod, the whole 9 yards. $5,000 could go towards offsetting that cost, and then that money could be used somewhere else. We have a lot of bills that we're looking to pay over at Volunteers Green, or it could go to something new. What we haven't contemplated over there is dugouts. So right now there's just a bench behind a fence, which works, but dugouts are also nice. So a few ideas.
So the last time I was coaching, that was a softball field. Is it?
Yeah, I think there's dimensions. There's softball, little league.
It's little league dimensions with the grass and clay infield like you'd see for baseball. It has a clay pitcher's mound, but there's no actual mound, which makes it playable for softball. But it's like a multi-use stadium in the 80s. It's not great for football. It's not great for baseball. It's not great for softball. It's not great for baseball. And so before we actually renovate that, so larger question is, I know Campbell's Hump Little League has been trying to do more softball over at the first field on Volunteers Green to kind of bring softball more into where the action is. So before we renovate things, I want to make sure, like, okay, if they want that as a softball field, maybe we take Special Project Reserve Fund, make that a full clay infield that's a proper softball field. And when we renovate Browns Court, maybe that becomes a proper baseball field with a mound.
I didn't know there were so many nuances to ball fields.
I mean, if you think about a softball field, it's that full clay infield with no grass on it, and there's no pitcher's mound. Whereas a baseball field has the grass and a mound for the pitcher.
Talking to the wrong guy, Josh.
I'm giving you, it's a difference in a dirt bike and a street bike. I mean, it's
every dirt bike track has tire marks on it.
And Danny will probably remember this. There's been a history of lack of maintenance on the softball field compared to the baseball fields.
Absolutely.
It's unfortunate. So I guess we would ultimately like to wait for Andres's quick review, probably it'll probably be just a,
Yeah.
Won't be a report. It'll be a, yeah, looks good.
I would, yeah,
No,
I think
no
so.
implications. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, what's the board's thoughts? Are there the conditions make sense? Do you all think that covers us as far as making sure everyone's in agreement and all the interested parties are getting what they need out of it? Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything concerning?
No, I think the addition of some cash in the deal addresses Colonel Bounty's concern adequately. And yeah, and I think Mary made the point earlier this evening that we want to shed ourselves of these odd lots. And I think this is a good way to do it. Just so long as the existing deeded rights of the people who use that driveway now are respected.
Yeah. Great. All right, so hopefully we bug Andres at our September 1st, not our September 1st, our first September meeting, be clear. We could probably have
another meeting
just to wait for that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Danny, to keep kicking it on you.
That's all right. It's part of the process. So can that 5,000 be for Brown's Court though? Can that stay?
I think that I don't think we have any major pushback on that.
This has been in my mind for quite a while. And I didn't even know that Camel's Hump went to the New Englands until late. So that didn't influence my decision at all. I did see you on TV.
I was on ESPN last Monday morning briefly. Not performing as well as the kids though. They outshone me a lot. I was eating sunflower seeds in the back of the stands.
Congratulations to those kids.
Yeah, they did a great job.
They represented Richmond really well.
They did. I agree.
Thank you, Danny. Next, we have an update from the Planning and Zoning Department.
It's on a piece of paper.
You have 5 minutes, Keith. You can keep it to one.
Not much of a change from last month. And I'm actually potentially thinking of making this a quarterly report instead of a monthly report. Because there's not a lot of change. The biggest change you're going to see is how many permits and what the permits are. We've been busy permitting once.
That's good.
That's not a problem. We're not building houses.
Oh.
That's a problem.
We're like dwelling units.
Yeah, not a lot of building units.
All right.
Right about 4 for the year, 5.
What are we building?
Wow. What's that?
What are we building?
A lot of additions, sheds, a lot of driveways.
Small dwelling units? Sheds are kind of.
We've got a couple ADUs, and we've got a couple things in the pipeline, and a lot of interest. It's interest rates are an all-time high, not all-time high, but recent all-time high. And it's not a good environment.
Yeah.
I can say.
Well, thank you for the brief update. We'll see you again in 1 month.
Yeah.
If you'd like to submit a request to have your update reduced to quarterly, we would entertain it.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
If we do that, you'll get slammed with stuff and you'll wish you had a monthly update. So maybe it's a good way to jumpstart construction. Next, we have consideration of approving a project from the Flood Mitigation Alternatives Analysis for the Winooski River and its tributaries to move forward to the concept design phase. So
this is the presentation we had last meeting.
Yeah, so one note, I included the presentation as they presented it last meeting. They are looking into the comments that were received about the flood maps. The Bounty's brought up some concerns about where the flood mapping was on their modeling versus what their real life on the ground experience has been. She didn't have a chance to look into making amendments for this meeting, but rest assured, she's working on that for the final project. She'll make sure that she takes her feedback into consideration. So the question before the board now, sort of the last phase of this project is to advance a project to the conceptual design phase. So that way it has designs in place so that when there is money available for actual construction, we're ready to submit for that money. So the suggestions, recommended one was there's stage road culverts, replacement and upsizing. So there's 2 sort of upstream and downstream from each other. I did dig into that a little bit more. We have a little bit of engineering from East Engineering for the downstream culvert on Stage Road. It's been one that Pete's submitted for the structures grant for probably the last 7 or 8 years, hasn't been awarded. But when I asked Stone Environmental about this, they said that they could definitely, let's see, from a resiliency perspective, upsizing stage culverts as a pair would be beneficial. And they could add to the engineering that East Engineering had done for the downstream one. And then she said, or we can incorporate the upstream culvert in design. So they could do both of those together and sort of not address the downstream one too much, or just add to the existing engineering. Or another one would be prioritizing the 2 culverts without existing design work, and then add the 3rd downstream culvert on stage as a design. Sorry, I'm not organizing my thoughts well here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read these. I think that the overall would be, if we do both of those stage road culverts, they would take the existing design into account and then add to that as well as the upstream design. And I think that would help address a need that Pete has seen in flooding, as he sees both of those culverts over top and cause damages downstream.
Yeah.
What would
the category of the category of floodplain restoration alternative. I mean, I kind of recoiled in horror at the idea of dropping volunteers green 8 feet. I have a hard time imagining myself going out to the public and talking to my neighbors about that one.
And also given it ineffective.
Yeah. Well, it brought the water level down like 6 inches or whatever. And I just, I mean, if that's what's meant by that bullet point, I really wouldn't. I personally wouldn't encourage them to spend a lot of time.
The tricky part with that too is, I think, went through this in Waterbury. There was a big proposal, a lot of grant money funded up to buy a private landowner's lot and reduce it, and that was designed to be above Waterbury because it would really affect downstream, and so it's tricky. While looking at from a Vermont standpoint, that would be great, but from a Richmond standpoint, taking arguably the focal point of our town down 8 feet and then benefiting everyone downstream, give or take, is a tough sell and a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Mary?
That volunteers green issue, I could not believe they were actually suggesting that. If the volunteers green was taken down by what they recommend, where would they get this idea? But that puts the entire Esplanade at risk. Mm-hmm. So if that flood became a floodway, mm-hmm. then Esplanade becomes so much more at risk, because right now, the way I see volunteers green with the 5 feet that they were anticipating taking out, that's kind of a buffer for Esplanade. And everything, subsequently up there, because you chew away at volunteers green, and then you chew away at Esplanade, and then you go up to Church Street. Next thing you know, the railroad's washed out. I just don't understand where they got that idea from. Maybe in a bag and say, okay, it's a hat size. No, it's take out. I could not believe they were suggesting that.
Yeah, I think the conclusion from the Waterbury study, this is very unrelated, was just that if you pursued these types of projects everywhere you could, the benefit would be massive, because no one project would be so inundated it would cause the massive problems. So it's kind of a
hit by what you've done upstream.
Yeah, so it would require like the entire watershed of the Winooski River to do those projects to really make a measurable difference, which is.
But having spent time going up and down Stage Road a lot lately, you can see where they really need it.
Yeah. And those culverts have caused a lot of problems in the last 2 major flooding events too.
Snipe Island Road got put back together in good form after the last big flood. I was astounded at how well the town responded and how quickly they got things put back to right. But there's a house but a couple miles up Stage Road where they've created a whole kind of water course, and they got rid of their culvert and put a bridge in. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it gives you an idea of the scale of the problem. That's a super appropriate response, what they've done as private landowners. But I think we would benefit from getting going on the Stage Road projects, to have them shovel ready.
So I can formulate my thought better now. Read my notes. So the one option is both stage road culverts. The other options he suggested was the upper culvert on Stage Road and a culvert on Snipe Island to do more design of those. And then if they have time or extra budget, add in the downstream culvert where we already have some engineering. So that way we would get 2 culverts on 2 separate roads, complete conceptual design, and maybe a little bit more on Stage Road. That way you could spread it out between 2 a little bit more, or you could just focus on Stage. So I think those might
That sounds great. In theory, my worry would be that we end up with 2 designed culverts on 2 different roads, and then
that's fair.
You know, if you upsize the upstream culvert, the downstream culvert just
blows out.
It seems like it gets hit harder, right? So, I don't know what.
That was my inclination to say, well, since it's sequential, deal with that sequence before you go on.
Usually I would say go bottom working your way up. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. No, that's not an expert. This just seems.
Yeah.
Seen the water move through there. It's a lot.
It's insane.
On those floods, it is.
Yeah. I've never, just for perspective, I know the last flood, I drove my excavator up that road to fix it. And it called someone who said, my excavator looks like a mini excavator in this hole. They brought an excavator over that they had to take the counterweight off to drive it up there to put it back together. It's like, it was just the amount of destruction from these normal size little streams. It's crazy. So anything we can do.
This study is paid for by grant money though, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, then I don't feel so badly.
Maybe a last comment. It seems to me that that's the appropriate way to focus the water as it's coming down towards the floodplains versus expanding the floodplains. Because even if we dug out Volunteer Green 30 feet, it's not going to change what happens on these roads.
No, that's where the majority of our damage really is. Yeah. So are we, do we want to make a motion on which project we want to move forward with?
If they're presented as options, I would move that we authorize the engineering firm, what's their name here, to pursue conceptual design of the Stage Road culverts. That's where I'd be coming from.
Agreed. So move to direct Stone Environmental to focus on the Stage Road culverts as a system.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Just so we're aware, this is like a formal motion to tell them what to do, okay? I guess I'm saying, talking about it very casually. Like, we'll actually go in the record.
I think what you're interpreting is the sleepiness of old men.
Understood, okay. Yeah. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye.
Thanks, Keith.
Next, we have consideration of using $3,800 from the Town Center Reserve Fund to pay for duct cleaning in the town center. I think this happened 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago we did duct cleaning. I'm not sure if he even did the entire building. I know we did a lot around the town clerks because you could actually see some of the black sort of debris on the doors. So it's been a while, so it'd be good to get the entire system done and filters changed. So we got a couple quotes. Chuck's was by far the most reasonable at $3,800, and they've done a lot of work for the library. So very reputable.
That includes new filters.
Yeah, I think there's filters in there as well.
MERV rating 13 or greater, or.
Yeah, I think as needed. Duncan, did that specifically include new filters at $3,800, or is it? Do you recall if it's additional if we need new filters?
They are replacing the filters. We have some filters down in the downstairs vault.
Right.
That fit those, or that, yeah, we are replacing those. Because, yeah, obviously you don't clean it all out and then keep the old filters. You toss out the old filters,
bang the filter out and flip it around, right?
Right. Yep. Right. Yeah. No, we have the filters, or they are replacing with new filters.
Okay.
Thanks, Duncan.
Adam, this is David. I move to authorize $3,800 from the Town Center Reserve Fund to pay for duct cleaning at the Town Center, and I can also recommend Chuck Stearns, Chuck's Heating and Air Conditioning.
This is Greg. I will second the motion.
Bart, it seems like you had some discussion.
It was peripheral.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Next, we have consideration of accepting an aid grant from the state of Vermont in the amount of $23,000 to help pay for upgrades to hydrologically connected road segments. So this is a non-competitive grant. And they are, just reading what Josh wrote here.
So, yeah,
I'll defer to Josh.
Yeah, so every year, Pete, we have road segments that are not in compliance for something with night ditching. It's mostly for phosphorus runoff. So every year, Pete addresses a couple of segments. This money helps go towards doing that work. So the other advantage is that Pete and his guys do it all in-house. So we're not hiring out outside contractors. So this money goes directly towards their time and materials. And it's, not competitive. They basically base this on number of road miles you have, how many non-compliant segments you have, and everybody gets a bite at the apple.
Cool. Yeah, those guys do a nice job. Yep. I would move that the Richmond Select Board accept grants in aid from the state of Vermont in the amount of $23,000 to pay for upgrades to hydrologically connected road segments.
This is Bart, I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Great. And then we have our last exciting agenda item.
We have Richmond Rescue, quick.
Richmond Rescue quarterly update. Do we have anyone from Richmond Rescue with us, or do you pop it up? They usually just send us
They send the write-up.
They're busy doing important stuff.
Busy saving lives, which they tell you how many they save every month, every quarter.
They're pretty careful to not word it in that way, I think.
But we don't know it.
They do, yeah.
No, I love how they always provide us a good update. And there was one in this update. I'm trying to get the exact wording. What are they're doing their pre-hospital ultrasound to Richmond Rescue. And I think about some of the work they've done over the years where they've done a number of other things where they've added training and expertise to their crew where they can do more in the ambulance before they get to the hospital. It's really pretty impressive when you every year or so there's like, oh, we're doing this new thing to help. They really are saving lives.
Yeah.
It's great.
I know that Matt, just somewhat of a tangent, but there's a lot of dead time in the ambulance a lot of the time.
Downtime.
Okay, better wording.
Yes.
I will take the advice. And so, the more information they can provide to the ER team when they roll in, the better the outcomes are. So it's great that they can keep improving and adding to their skill set. Next, we have consideration of moving the first select board meeting in September to Tuesday, September 8th, due to the holiday on Monday, September 7th, 2026.
Yeah, Adam, this is David. I move to move the first select board meeting in September to Tuesday, September 8th, 2026, due to the holiday of Labor Day falling on Monday, September 7th.
This is Bart, I'll second.
Any more discussion? Anyone want to do it on Labor Day? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
This is Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye.
2 days after my birthday, I turned 35 this year.
Mazel tov. I just looking down the road, I'm going to be gone the second meeting in September, assuming that it would fall on the 21st. I'll be out of state.
Oh, I might actually be gone for this first meeting in September.
I might be too.
I will be gone, but I hope to be able to join virtually.
I guess this is the next meeting we have.
It's the next meeting, the September 8th meeting. So
I have 3.
And you're by Zoom, you think? Or pretty sure?
Well, I'll be on the coast of Maine and a place I have not been before. So it depends what the connectivity is like there.
Carrier pigeon and hamstring.
Well, I'll be here for the 8th.
I might be here for the 8th.
I might be, I'm not sure.
50-50.
I can zoom it this later.
Well, I guess we should ensure that Caitlin will plan to be here.
Okay, so Greg is here.
Yeah, I'll be here for sure on the 8th.
David is a
Maybe.
yes by Zoom.
Possibly.
David is a maybe. Bart is a maybe.
I guess September is just a couple months away. I should probably firm up my plans.
Adam is a no.
Let's go with a no.
Okay, and then Caitlin will find out. I guess then if it sort of comes down to David, if you can do it and Caitlin's around, then we can hold the meeting. If you can't do it, we'd have to either hold it be earlier.
Well, I'm gone on the 8th. I'll be gone on the 7th too.
And then a week earlier.
Oh.
We have a 3-week break between now and the next meeting.
Like 5 p.m.
No, I was thinking we could
do the week earlier.
We could do August 31st, and then we would just have a 3-week break between. Let me pull this up.
Would we have to call a special meeting to change the meeting?
They're gonna be special anyway, so
would we have to call a special meeting?
No, you could
change the meeting to
all our meetings are special.
I think you could do it. You could do it right now. You could move the September meeting to August 31st, and then we'd have that meeting the 31st.
Let's do that.
And then we would have, what am I doing here?
The first Monday of school starting out. My family will be so excited that I'm gone that day too.
Right. And then you would keep your regular meeting on the 21st. We'd have a 3-week recap on the next meeting.
Yeah.
21st, Greg, you're not here the 21st?
No, I'm in Cincinnati.
Okay, September 21. No, Greg. Everybody else is here the 21st?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so then we're going to go to September 31st. That's going to be, so September 31st, all 4 of you are available?
August 31st.
August 31st.
I am in Maine on that day as well.
So August 31, no Bard.
August 31st.
It's a question.
Okay, but we have everybody else?
Yep.
Okay, so September 8th will strike. So I think just make the motion to move the September 7th meeting to August 31st, and we'll have no Barb and everybody else. And then on the 21st, we'll have no Greg and everybody else.
So this is David. Didn't we already vote on that?
We did.
Oh.
But we were gonna make a new motion.
Yeah.
Change it to the 31st.
So I move to move the first select board meeting in September to August 31st due to schedule conflicts.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
We have any more discussion? Any scheduling conflicts? All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the minutes from the August 3rd, 2026 meeting.
Is Bart second?
All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the minutes from the August 4th, 2026 meeting.
Is Bart second?
All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, abstain.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve purchase order number 5637 to mow and maintain for grounds maintenance for summer and fall of fiscal year 27 in the amount of $23,333.32.
Is Bart second?
All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. We'll just note, I've heard 0 complaints about our maintenance of the lawns this summer, which I feel like is the most ringing endorsement you can give.
Well,
contractor.
Not only have there been 0 complaints, but we're actually getting compliments.
I haven't gotten any compliments, but
that's a high bar.
It's a high bar though. Yeah, it looks great.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the warrants as presented.
Bart, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. We have one last item.
So next agenda, we're going to bring back the rules of conduct, an update on the fair and impartial policing policy, the update on the Aldrich easement,
right?
Update on the legal trail number 2,
and the Jay discussion to Danny Pete, Mary Drive.
Oh yeah.
And hopefully we have heard back from Andres then, and we can get rid of that one for good. think that's it that we'll be bringing back. Is there anything that's popped up that we need to add?
Wow, you're 4 minutes over.
Well done.
Adam, this is David. I move to adjourn.
Is Bart, second? All those in favor? Bart, aye.
Greg, aye. David, aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.